The notification from the party planner's cancellation email stabbed through my chest like an icy blade. I stared at my phone, reading and rereading the message until the words blurred together. My 21st birthday celebration, the milestone event I'd been planning for months, was being unceremoniously axed 2 weeks before the big day. I'm Scarlett, and this is the moment I realized I would always be second best in my family's eyes. Mom! I stormed downstairs, finding her arranging flowers in our oversized kitchen. Why did Leslie just email me saying she's cancelling my birthday party? My mother, Edith, barely looked up from her precise placement of white roses. Oh, honey, I meant to talk to you about that. We need the venue for Layla's baby shower instead. Layla's what? My voice cracked. She already had a baby shower 4 months ago. This is different, Mom said, adjusting a stem with manicured fingers. It's a sprinkle, a smaller celebration for her second pregnancy. You know how important this is for your brother and his wife. I gripped the kitchen counter until my knuckles turned white. More important than my 21st birthday. Don't be dramatic, Scarlett. We can celebrate your birthday another time. Family comes first. I am family! The words exploded from my mouth. Or did you forget that detail somewhere between Bryce's law school graduation party and Layla's 3rd engagement celebration? Mom finally looked up, her expression a perfect mask of controlled disappointment. Lower your voice. This isn't a discussion. The decision's been made. My phone buzzed. Chelsea, my best friend, was calling. I answered while walking away from Mom, who had already returned to her precious flower arrangement. Tell me it's not true, Chelsea said before I could speak. Your mom didn't seriously cancel your birthday party for another Layla love fest? I walked out to our back patio, sliding the glass door shut with more force than necessary. Oh, it's true. Apparently my milestone birthday can't compete with a sprinkle for baby number 2. That's messed up, Scar. Like, seriously messed up. You know what's worse? I watched a hummingbird dart between Mom's prized gardenias. Dad didn't even try to stop her. He just sat there reading his newspaper this morning when she made the call. What are you going to do? I hadn't told anyone yet, but I'd been building a decent following on social media over the past year. Nothing huge, but enough that my posts about fashion and life as a college student were getting noticed. I might have an idea. Uh-oh. I know that tone. What are you thinking? The patio door slid open, and my brother Bryce stepped out, phone pressed to his ear. Yeah, babe. Mom's handling everything. It'll be perfect. He noticed me and gave a small wave before continuing his conversation with Layla. Chelsea, I said, turning away from my brother. Remember how you always say the truth needs to be heard? Yeah? I think it's time people heard my truth. All of it. Scarlett. Chelsea's voice held a warning note. I've got to go. Coming over later? Of course. Someone has to keep you from doing something crazy. I ended the call just as Bryce finished his. Hey, sis, he said, looking apologetic. Mom told me about the party. I'm really sorry. Are you? I met his eyes. Sorry enough to tell Layla to pick another day. He ran a hand through his perfect hair, the golden boy's trademark move. Come on, you know I can't do that. Layla's already sent out invitations. Right. Because heaven forbid anyone disappoint Layla. I headed for the door. Congratulations on the baby, by the way. I'm sure it'll be just as perfect as everything else in your life. Scarlett, wait! But I was already inside, climbing the stairs to my room. My hands shook as I opened my laptop and started typing. My name is Scarlett, and this is the story of how my family cancelled my 21st birthday party for my sister-in-law's 2nd baby shower. I hit post and watched as the first likes started rolling in. My phone pinged with a text from Cody, a guy from my photography class who'd been showing interest lately. Saw your post. That's rough. Want to grab coffee and talk about it? For a moment, I hesitated, Then I heard Mom's voice floating up from downstairs, probably planning more details for Layla's perfect day. I texted back, "Coffee sounds great. And Cody? I have a feeling this story's just getting started." As I grabbed my keys and headed out, I could already see the comment count climbing on my post. Maybe it was time the world saw behind the carefully maintained facade of the Murray family. Maybe it was time they all learned what it felt like to be the one who didn't matter. The coffee shop buzzed with afternoon energy as Cody slid a steaming latte across the table to me. My phone hadn't stopped vibrating since I'd made the post 2 hours ago. "So, how many views are we talking about?" Cody leaned forward, his green eyes curious beneath his messy dark hair. I refreshed the page. 20,000. And climbing. My hands trembled slightly as I picked up the cup. I've never had anything blow up like this before. "Have you read the comments?" "Some." I pulled up the thread. "Listen to this one. Your family's treatment is textbook narcissistic behavior. My heart breaks for you, and I hope you realize you deserve better." Cody nodded thoughtfully. "They're not wrong." My phone lit up with Chelsea's face. "Hey, where are you?" she demanded when I answered. "I just got to your house and your mom said you stormed out." "I'm at Riverside Coffee with Cody. Come join us?" "On my way. Don't do anything dramatic until I get there." I hung up and noticed Cody studying me. "What? You're planning something bigger than just this post, aren't you?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "The caterer needs final numbers for Layla's shower by tomorrow. Please confirm you're attending." "Unbelievable," I muttered, showing Cody the message. She really expects me to sit there and celebrate while everyone pretends it's not supposed to be my birthday. "What are you going to say?" I typed quickly. "Don't worry, Mom. I'll be there." Then I looked up at Cody with a smile that wasn't entirely innocent. Just not in the way she expects. Chelsea burst through the door, her curly hair wild from the wind. "Okay, spill. What's the master plan that's going to get you disowned?" "Who says I have a plan?" "Please." Chelsea dropped into the chair beside me. "I've known you since 3rd grade. You've got that same look you had right before you exposed Jessica's cheating ring in high school." I pulled up my social media profile. What if I went live during the shower? "Scarlett." Chelsea's voice held that familiar note of concern. "Think about it," I continued, warming to the idea. "All these people who are supporting me online, they get to see exactly what I've been dealing with for years. No editing, no filters, just raw reality." "That's actually brilliant," Cody said, earning a glare from Chelsea. "Don't encourage her." "No, listen." I leaned forward. "Mom's always been obsessed with appearances, right? Everything has to look perfect for her country club friends. But what happens when thousands of people see behind the curtain?" My phone buzzed again. This time it was Bryce. "Hey sis, saw your post. Can we talk?" "Now my brother's worried about his precious image." I showed them the message. "Funny how they only care when it might affect them." Chelsea sighed. "I get it. I do. But are you sure you want to go nuclear? There's no coming back from something like this." "They crossed the line first," I said, my voice harder than I intended. 21 years of being the family afterthought, and they couldn't even let me have this one day. Cody reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Whatever you decide to do, I'm in." "Me too," Chelsea added reluctantly. "Someone has to help you minimize the damage." I pulled up my calendar and created an event for next Saturday, the day of the shower, my birthday. Operation Truthstream is a go. Just then, my latest post update showed a comment that made my heart stop. "Is this the same Murray family that's always in the society pages? The ones with that big charity foundation?" Oh God. Chelsea peered at my screen. "Your mom's going to have a meltdown when this hits her social circle." "Good," I said, but my voice wavered slightly. Maybe she'll finally understand how it feels to be humiliated. Cody caught my eye. You okay? Yeah, I nodded, straightening my shoulders, just realizing there's no turning back now. My phone lit up with another text from Mom. Layla's asking about your cake preference for the shower. Chocolate or vanilla? I showed the others. She's really asking about cake preferences for a party that replaced my birthday. That's it. Chelsea grabbed my phone and started typing. I'm helping you set up the live stream right now. These people need a reality check. As Chelsea and Cody huddled around my phone, planning camera angles and timing, I watched my original post's numbers climb higher and higher. By Saturday, my family would learn that their perfect image wasn't as unshakable as they thought. And maybe, just maybe, they'd finally see me. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of perfect weather my mother always seemed to manifest for her events. I positioned my phone carefully in the decorative vase on the corner table, angling it for the best view of our living room. The screen showed live viewers 47. People were already waiting. Testing, I whispered into my earpiece. Chelsea, can you hear me? Loud and clear. Her voice crackled through. Cody's monitoring the comment feed from his place. You're good to go. The front door opened, and Layla swept in wearing a flowing maternity dress, Bryce trailing behind with gift bags. Scarlett, you're here early. Wouldn't miss it, I smiled, adjusting my own birthday dress, the one I'd bought months ago for my party. Need any help setting up? Oh, sweetie, no. Mom appeared from the kitchen, wearing her signature hostess smile. You know I handle all the arrangements. Why don't you help Layla get comfortable? The viewer count ticked up. 158, 239, 305. Layla settled onto the specially arranged chair, decorated with pink and blue ribbons, while guests began arriving. Each one cooed over her tiny baby bump, while I stood in the corner, supposedly managing the guest book. Your mum really outdid herself, one of Mum's friends gushed. Although, isn't this around your birthday, dear? Actually, it's today, I said clearly, knowing my phone would pick it up. The live feed exploded with angry emoji reactions. Oh! The woman's face fell. I didn't realize. Don't worry about it, I smiled. Apparently, second baby showers take priority over 21st birthdays in this family. The viewer count hit 1,000. Mum appeared with champagne flutes, sparkling cider for Layla, of course. Everyone, gather round. We're about to start the games. I watched through my phone's view as Mom orchestrated her perfect party. The comments scrolled faster than I could read. This is painful to watch. That poor girl. Someone needs to call these people out. Scarlett? Chelsea's voice came through my earpiece. You're trending. This is getting big. Bryce approached me with a glass of champagne. Hey, you okay? You seem quiet. Just enjoying the show, I said, loud enough for the mic to catch. It's not every day you get to celebrate your birthday by watching everyone fawn over someone else's second baby shower. His face fell. Listen, about that. Bryce, Layla called. We're opening presents. The viewer count passed 5,000. I watched as Layla opened gift after expensive gift. Designer baby clothes, custom furniture, a stroller that probably cost more than my first car. Mum documented everything in her party planning notebook, the same one she'd used to plan my cancelled celebration. And this, Mum announced, is a special gift from the grandparents-to-be. She handed Layla an envelope. Inside was a check that made Layla gasp. This is too much. Nothing's too much for our grandchild, Dad said, beaming. The comments section exploded. But they cancelled their daughter's birthday? This family is toxic AF. Someone send this to drama channels now. My phone buzzed with a text from Cody. It's spreading to other platforms. News sites are picking it up. Now. Mom stood up, practically glowing. We have a special surprise. The cake. My heart stopped as the caterers wheeled out an elaborate 3-tier masterpiece, exactly like the one I'd chosen for my birthday. Is that? I stepped forward. Is that my cake design? The room went quiet. Well, Mom adjusted her blazer. It seemed a shame to waste such a lovely design, and since we had to cancel your party. Had to? My voice carried clearly through the stream. You chose to. You chose to take my birthday celebration and turn it into this. Scarlett, Dad warned. Not now. Then when? I pulled out my phone, making sure they could all see the live stream. When is it my turn to matter in this family? The viewer count hit 10,000. Mom's face went pale as she saw the phone, the numbers, the flowing comments. What have you done? What you taught me to do, I said, my voice steady. I'm making sure appearances are maintained. Isn't that what matters most? Layla stood up, one hand on her belly. Bryce, what's happening? What's happening, I announced to both the room and my growing audience, is that everyone finally gets to see behind the perfect family facade. Happy birthday to me. The room erupted into chaos as phones started pinging with notifications. Mom's friends whispered and pointed. Dad tried to damage control, and through it all, my phone kept streaming, the numbers climbing higher and higher as the Murray family's carefully constructed image began to crack. Chelsea's voice came through my earpiece. Scarlett, you just went viral. The aftermath was immediate and explosive. Mum's perfectly orchestrated baby shower dissolved into a flurry of awkward goodbyes and hurried departures. I sat on our grand staircase, watching the chaos unfold while my phone continued streaming. Turn it off, Mum demanded, her voice shaking. Turn that off right now. Why? I held up the phone. Isn't this what you wanted? An audience for your perfect family? Bryce stepped between us. Enough, Scarlett. You've made your point. Have I? I stood up. Because I don't think I have. Did you know Mom used my birthday cake design? The one I spent weeks picking out? It's just a cake, Layla interjected, still perched in her designated chair. My phone buzzed with rapid-fire notifications. Chelsea's voice came through my earpiece. You're at 50,000 viewers. It's being shared everywhere. Dad emerged from his study, face ashen. The Foundation's board members are calling. This is going viral in our social circles. Of course they are, Mom snapped. Our daughter just decided to air our private family matters to the entire world. Private? I laughed. You mean like how you privately told all your country club friends that my party was cancelled because I was being difficult? Or how you privately suggested I was jealous of Layla's pregnancy? Mom's face went white. How did you? Mrs. Patterson's daughter follows me online. She showed me the texts. The viewer count ticked higher. Comments flooded in. This is better than reality TV. Team Scarlett all the way. Someone call Andy Cohen, we need a reunion show. Do you have any idea what you've done? Mom's voice cracked. The Foundation's reputation. Your reputation, I corrected. That's all you've ever cared about. Bryce's phone started ringing. It's the law firm, he said, looking panicked. They're asking about the social media situation. Chelsea's voice crackled through. Scarlett, major news sites are picking up the story. You're trending nationwide. Layla burst into tears. This was supposed to be my special day. Yeah, I turned to her. Funny how that feels, isn't it? The doorbell rang. Through the glass, I could see Cody standing there, looking worried. Dad moved to answer it. Don't, Mom warned. No one else needs to witness this disaster. Too late, I gestured to my phone. About 100,000 people already are. Cody let himself in anyway. Scarlett, are you okay? The comments are getting intense. She's fine, Mom said through gritted teeth. She's just having a tantrum. A tantrum? I stepped closer. Is that what you call it when someone finally stands up to you? I call it ungrateful, she shot back. After everything we've done for you. Everything you've done for me? My voice rose. Like canceling my graduation dinner for Bryce's law school celebration? Or skipping my art show because Layla had a cold? Or maybe you mean taking my birthday and turning it into another excuse to worship your perfect son and his perfect wife? The stream's comment section exploded with support. Chelsea's voice came through. You're getting interview requests from major networks. Dad sank into a chair. This will ruin us. No, I said firmly. This will force you to see what you've been doing. All of you. Bryce stepped forward. Scar, please. Just end the stream. We can talk about this. Now you want to talk? After 21 years of being the family afterthought? That's not fair, Layla protested. Fair? I turned to her. Was it fair to schedule your second baby shower on my birthday? Was it fair to steal my cake design? Was any of this fair? Cody moved to my side, his presence steady and grounding. Maybe we should take a break, he suggested quietly. Mum's phone started ringing, the special ringtone she used for her social committee chair. Her hands shook as she declined the call. How does it feel? I asked softly. To have your carefully constructed image crumble? To have people see the real you? Scarlett, Dad pleaded. End this now. We can fix this. Fix what? The fact that your perfect family isn't so perfect? Or the fact that people finally know the truth? Chelsea's voice came through again. The local news is outside your house. As if on cue, camera flashes started going off outside our windows. Mom rushed to close the curtains, but it was too late. Her precious privacy was already shattered. Congratulations, Mom, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. You finally got the attention you always wanted, just not quite how you planned it. The viewer count passed 200,000 as our perfectly manicured family facade continued to unravel in real time, broadcast to the world one damning moment at a time. The morning after the live stream, I woke up at Chelsea's house to find my phone had practically melted down. Overnight, the video had racked up millions of views, spawned countless reaction videos, and inspired multiple Twitter hashtags. Your mom's been calling non-stop, Chelsea said, handing me a coffee. Like every 20 minutes since 6 a.m. I scrolled through the missed calls and messages. Mom, come home immediately. We need to fix this. Bryce. The partners are furious. Please call me. Dad, the foundation's biggest donor just pulled out. We need to talk. They're not angry that they hurt me, I said, showing Chelsea the messages. They're angry they got caught. My phone rang again. This time it was Cody. Turn on channel 7, he said when I answered. Now. Chelsea grabbed her remote and flipped to the local news. There, in high definition, was our house, with reporters camped outside. The headlines scrolled across the bottom. Viral family drama. Social media exposes local philanthropists. Oh my God, Chelsea whispered. The reporter stood in front of our gate. The video, which has now garnered over 3 million views, shows what appears to be a pattern of familial favoritism and emotional neglect. The Murray Family Foundation, known for its charitable work, has yet to comment on the situation. My phone buzzed with a text from Layla. The hospital board is questioning Bryce's partnership track. I hope you're happy. They're trying to make you feel guilty, Cody said through the phone. Don't let them. A notification popped up. I'd been tagged in a post by a major news site. The article title read, Generation Gap, How One Woman's Viral Video Exposed Modern Family Dynamics. Chelsea's mom knocked on the bedroom door. Girls, there are reporters outside asking for Scarlett. What? I rushed to the window. Sure enough, 2 news vans were parked across the street. This is getting intense, Chelsea said. What's your next move? Before I could answer, my phone lit up with Mom's call again. This time, I answered. You need to come home right now, she hissed. The country club is threatening to revoke our membership. Do you have any idea what this is doing to our reputation? Still worried about appearances, Mom? This isn't a game, Scarlett. Your father's business partners are backing out of deals. Bryce might lose his partnership track. Is that what you wanted? What I wanted was my family to care about my birthday. For heaven's sake, we can throw you another party. Was this temper tantrum really worth destroying our family? Chelsea grabbed my phone. Mrs. Murray? This is Chelsea. With all due respect, you're still not getting it. Scarlett didn't destroy your family. You did that all by yourself. I could hear Mom sputtering on the other end as Chelsea handed the phone back. The media wants your side of the story, Mom said, her voice tight. We need to present a united front. Come home and we'll figure out how to spin this. Spin this? I laughed. You still think this is about PR? A new notification popped up. A message from a major talk show wanting to book me as a guest. Then another from a publishing agent interested in my story. Scarlett, Mom's voice turned pleading. Please, we can fix this. No, Mom, you can't fix this with your usual tricks. The world saw the real you. All of you. Through the phone, I heard Dad in the background. The Foundation's board wants an emergency meeting. They're talking about removing us. Are you happy now? Mom snapped. You've gotten your revenge. This wasn't about revenge, I said quietly. This was about being seen. Really seen. For once in my life. Chelsea's mom called up again. There's someone here from Good Morning America. I ended the call with Mom and looked at Chelsea and Cody's face on my phone screen. What do I do now? You tell your story, Cody said firmly. All of it. No more hiding. My phone buzzed with another text from Bryce. The managing partner wants to meet with me tomorrow. Thanks a lot, sis. They're still trying to make this your fault, Chelsea observed, as if their actions had nothing to do with it. I walked to the window, watching more media vehicles pull up. My notification feed was endless. Messages of support, interview requests, people sharing similar stories of family dysfunction. Maybe that's the real story here, I said slowly. Not just about my family, but about all the others like it. The perfect facades hiding ugly truths. So what are you saying? Chelsea asked. I turned back to them, my decision made. I'm saying it's time to do that interview, not to hurt my family more, but to help everyone else who's ever felt invisible in their own home. The morning sun streamed through the window as reporters gathered outside, waiting for the girl who dared to shatter her family's perfect image. For the first time in my life, I knew exactly what I needed to do. The television studio lights felt hot on my face as the interviewer, Sarah Matthews, leaned forward with practiced sympathy. So, Scarlett, tell us what led to that moment, the decision to live stream your sister-in-law's baby shower. Cody squeezed my hand from his seat just off camera. We'd chosen this interview carefully, a respected morning show with a reputation for fair coverage. It wasn't just about the shower, I said, keeping my voice steady. It was about 21 years of being treated like an afterthought. The shower was just the final straw. Your mother claims this was an overreaction to a simple scheduling conflict. I pulled out my phone. I have texts from 6 months ago where I confirmed the date for my birthday celebration. Mom responded with, "Perfect, it's blocked off." Then, 2 weeks before, they gave away my venue, my cake design, everything. For a second baby shower. Sarah's eyebrows rose. A second shower? They called it a sprinkle, I said, making air quotes. The studio audience murmured. My phone buzzed, Bryce calling again. I declined it. Your family's foundation does considerable charitable work, Sarah continued. They've helped many people in the community. Yes, they have, and they've made sure everyone knows about it. But charity should begin at home, shouldn't it? The studio doors burst open. Mom strode in with Dad trailing behind her. The audience gasped. "Cut the cameras," Mom demanded. "This interview is over." "Security," Sarah called calmly, but I held up my hand. "No, let them stay," I said. "Maybe it's time we had this conversation publicly, since you won't have it privately." The cameras kept rolling as Mom stepped into the light. "You've made your point, Scarlett. You've humiliated us enough." "Humiliated you?" I stood up. "Do you know what's humiliating? Having your mother schedule a cake tasting for your birthday party, then giving your exact cake design to someone else. Having your father forget to show up to your college orientation because your brother had a golf game. Being told your art scholarship wasn't worth celebrating because it wasn't law school." Dad stepped forward. "We've always supported you. Financially, sure. But what about emotionally? When was the last time either of you asked about my dreams, my goals, my life?" The audience was dead silent. "We gave you everything," Mom's voice cracked. "The best schools, the best opportunities." "You gave me things," I corrected. "But you never gave me what I really needed. Your attention, your pride, your love," Sarah interjected softly. "Mrs. Murray, would you like to sit down? Share your side?" Mom smoothed her designer blazer, ever conscious of appearances. "This is a private family matter that's been blown out of proportion." "Private?" I laughed. "Like the Facebook post you made last month about Layla's pregnancy? Or the Instagram story about Bryce's promotion? But when I got that photography award?" Radio silence. The audience murmured again. "Your brother and his wife are starting a family," Dad said. "That's important. And I was turning 21. That's important too." My voice rose. Or it should have been. Cody stood up and moved to my side. "I've watched Scarlett check her phone every day, hoping for some acknowledgement from you both. Do you know she still has the notification turned on for your social media, still hoping you'll post something about her achievements?" Mom's perfect mask cracked slightly. We didn't realize." "No, you didn't," I said quietly. "You never realized. And that's the problem." Sarah turned to the cameras. "We're witnessing a raw family moment here, folks. This is what happens when years of unspoken pain finally find a voice." "The foundation board is meeting tomorrow," Dad said desperately. "They're voting on our leadership." "I know," I nodded. "And I'm sorry that's happening. But maybe it's time for some accountability." Mom sank into an empty chair, her composure finally breaking. "What do you want from us, Scarlett?" "I want you to see me," I said simply. "Not as an accessory to Bryce's success story. Not as a supporting character in the perfect family narrative you've created. Just as me, your daughter." The studio was silent except for the soft whir of cameras. Years of unspoken words hung in the air between us. Sarah turned to the camera. "We'll take a brief break and return with more of this powerful family discussion." As the on-air light dimmed, Mom looked at me with tears in her eyes. "When did you become so strong?" "I've always been strong, Mom," I replied. "You just never noticed." The makeup team rushed in for touch-ups, but all I could focus on was the way my parents were looking at me, really looking at me, for what felt like the first time in my life. The foundation's boardroom felt colder than I remembered. I sat between my parents, facing the stern faces of board members who'd known me since childhood. My viral story had forced this emergency meeting, and now we were all dealing with the fallout. "The public response has been overwhelming," Board Chairman Richard stated, shuffling through papers. "Our donors are concerned about the family's leadership." Mum straightened in her chair. "We can handle this." "Can you?" Richard interrupted. "Because right now, your family drama has overshadowed 15 years of charitable work." My phone buzzed. Another message from Bryce. "The partners postponed my review. Thanks for nothing." "However," Richard continued, We've also received an unprecedented amount of attention. Scarlett's story has resonated with people. Our social media engagement has increased by 800%. Dad leaned forward. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we adapt. Richard turned to me. Scarlett, your video didn't just expose family dysfunction. It highlighted a generational disconnect that many people relate to. We'd like you to join the Foundation's board. What? Mom's head snapped up. As our youth outreach director, Richard explained. Help us connect with younger donors. Create programs addressing family communication and mental health. Before Mom could object, the boardroom door opened. Bryce walked in, looking unusually disheveled. Sorry I'm late, he said, taking a seat. The partners wanted to discuss my social media presence. Did they fire you? Mom asked anxiously. No. Bryce ran a hand through his hair. They want me to lead a new initiative on family law and mediation. Said my personal experience would be valuable. I couldn't help but laugh. So both our careers are actually benefiting from this mess. It's not funny, Mom snapped, but Dad touched her arm. Maybe it is, a little, he said quietly. All our efforts to maintain the perfect image, and it's the truth that's opening doors. My phone lit up with a text from Layla. Can we talk? Alone? The Foundation needs to evolve, Richard said. And frankly, so does your family. Scarlett's video showed us that. Mom's perfectly manicured nails drummed on the table. And if we refuse? Then we'll have to consider new leadership entirely. The room fell silent. Years of my parents' careful social climbing hung in the balance. I'll do it, I said finally. On one condition. Richard raised an eyebrow. Yes? The first program I want to create is about family healing, and my family has to participate. All of us. Absolutely not, Mum started, but Dad cut her off. Yes, he said firmly. We'll do it. Bryce nodded slowly. Count me in. My phone buzzed again. Cody this time. How's it going? Chelsea and I are stress-eating donuts waiting for updates. Richard smiled. Then we're agreed. Scarlett, welcome to the board. As we left the meeting, Layla was waiting in the hallway. Her baby bump was more prominent now, and she looked tired. Can we grab coffee? She asked. I've been doing some thinking. Mom opened her mouth to protest, but surprisingly, held back. 20 minutes later, Layla and I sat in the Foundation's cafe. I never realized, she said, stirring her decaf latte, how much pressure there was to maintain this perfect image. How much it was hurting you. Really? Because you seemed to fit right in. I was trying to, she admitted. Your mom was so focused on appearances, and Bryce was so eager to please them. I just followed along. And my birthday party? Layla flushed. I should have said no to the shower. I'm sorry. My phone pinged with a notification. The morning show interview had gone viral, sparking a national conversation about family dynamics and mental health. Maybe, I said slowly, we can all do better now. The baby's a girl, Layla said suddenly. We found out yesterday, and I was thinking, would you want to help design her nursery? You have such a good eye for art and color. It was a small olive branch, but a genuine one. My phone lit up with messages from Chelsea and Cody asking to celebrate my new board position. As I looked at Layla's hopeful face, I made a decision. Why don't you join us? I suggested. Chelsea and Cody are waiting. No pressure, no perfect images to maintain. Just real people having real conversations. Layla smiled. Not her usual camera-ready smile, but something more genuine. I'd like that. As we gathered our things, I caught our reflection in the cafe window, the family rebel and the perfect daughter-in-law, finding common ground in the aftermath of chaos. Maybe that's what healing looked like. Not a perfect resolution, but small steps toward understanding. My phone buzzed one more time. Mum. Dinner tonight? Just us. We need to talk. For the first time in years, I felt hope when I saw her name on my screen. The aroma of fresh-baked cake filled our kitchen as Mom carefully placed 21 candles in a spiral pattern. It wasn't the elaborate 3-tier masterpiece from the original plan, but this homemade chocolate cake meant more. Are you sure you don't want me to call the caterer? Mum asked, adjusting a candle. We could still. This is perfect, I said, watching her hands shake slightly as she lit each flame. Really? The doorbell rang. Dad opened it to reveal Chelsea and Cody, carrying gifts and wearing party hats. Behind them, Bryce and Layla stepped in, looking slightly uncertain. Happy birthday, sis, Bryce said, holding out a small package. It's not much, but... I opened it to find a framed photo. Me at my art show last year, standing proudly by my winning piece. The show they'd missed. I had it in my phone, he explained. Never posted it because... well, you know how things were. But it's a great photo. Thanks, I whispered, genuinely touched. Layla waddled forward with her own gift, a custom-made art supply set. For the nursery designs, she said. If you still want to help. Mom cleared her throat. Before we do cake, your father and I have something to say. She glanced at Dad, who nodded encouragingly. We've been watching your interview videos, reading the comments, and we realize we've been so focused on maintaining an image that we forgot to see the real people behind it. Including you, Dad added softly. The Foundation's family healing program starts next week, Mom continued, but we didn't want to wait that long to start making changes. So... She pulled out her phone and opened Instagram. There, on her perfectly curated feed, was a new post, a casual photo of me in my studio, paint splattered and smiling, taken just yesterday when she'd visited my workspace for the first time. The caption read, "Proud of my daughter Scarlett, our foundation's new youth outreach director. Her courage to speak truth has taught our family the meaning of real strength. Proud mom, chart real life." You posted that? I stared at the phone. But it's not perfect. No. Mom smiled slightly. It's better. It's real. Chelsea wiped her eyes. Okay, this is getting too emotional. Can we do cake? As everyone gathered around the kitchen island, Cody slipped his hand into mine. You okay? Yeah, I squeezed his hand. I think I am. Mom lit the final candle. Make a wish, sweetheart. I looked around at my small gathering. No society photographers, no perfectly coordinated decorations, just people being genuine. I don't need to, I said. This is exactly what I wanted. Oh! Layla suddenly grabbed her belly. She's kicking! Scarlett, want to feel your niece? A month ago, this moment would have been staged for social media. Now, Layla simply shared her joy, no phones in sight. We're thinking of naming her Scarlett, Bryce said quietly. If that's okay with you? Mom dropped her lighter. But that's not a family name. Exactly, Bryce cut in. It's time for new traditions. As we ate cake, slightly lopsided but delicious, my phone buzzed with a notification. The Foundation's first family healing workshop was fully booked, with a waiting list growing by the minute. Your story really touched people, Dad said, reading over my shoulder. You've started something important. We all did, I corrected. By finally being honest with each other, Chelsea raised her glass. To honesty. And to imperfect families, Layla added, touching her sparkling water to Chelsea's glass. And to real celebrations, Mum said softly, meeting my eyes. No facades needed. As everyone chatted and laughed, I noticed Mum had left her phone in her purse. Dad was actually listening to Cody's photography stories, and Bryce was helping Layla get comfortable instead of networking. Small changes, but meaningful ones. The foundation's chairman had been right. My viral moment hadn't just exposed family dysfunction, it had created an opportunity for genuine connection, not just for us, but for all the other families struggling behind perfect social media feeds. "Hey," Cody nudged me. "What are you thinking about?" I watched Mom laugh at one of Chelsea's jokes, a real laugh, not her society laugh, and smiled. "I'm thinking sometimes the best gifts come wrapped in chaos." "Speaking of gifts," he grinned, pulling out a small package. "Open mine last?" As I reached for the gift, surrounded by the warmth of real family love, I realized that my 21st birthday had turned out perfect after all, just not in the way anyone had planned, and maybe that was the best birthday lesson of all.
Hello, my name is Elowen Cade, and I have a question for you. What would you do if everything you worked for, everything you built with your own hands, was stolen from you by the very people who were supposed to love you? I saved my family's restaurant. I spent years pouring my blood, sweat, and every waking moment into making it a success. And when I finally turned it around, made it profitable, saved it from collapse, my father looked me in the eye and said, "Your sister will take over now." Just like that. No gratitude, no recognition, no acknowledgement of the sacrifices I made. But worse than the betrayal was the realization. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an accident. They never planned to let me lead. They only planned to use me. I thought it was over that night, that I had lost. But I was wrong. Because if they thought I would disappear quietly, they had no idea who they were dealing with. Want to know what happened next? Keep watching. I stepped into the dining room, expecting recognition, maybe even a nod of approval. Instead, I was about to be erased from my own legacy. The chandelier's golden glow illuminated the pristine table setting, but the air was thick, suffocating, charged with something sharp enough to cut. I had dressed for the occasion, navy dress, pearl earrings, hair sleek in a bun. I had imagined this night differently. My father, Magnus Cade, acknowledging what I had done, how I had saved Cade's Prime from the brink of irrelevance. But the moment I sat down, I knew something was wrong. Velis sat across from me, swirling her wine, smirking. My mother's hands were folded in her lap, knuckles white. My father, ever composed, cut into his steak as if this were just another meal. "Let's get to it," Magnus said, dabbing his mouth. "There's going to be a change in management at Cade's Prime." I straightened. This was it. Finally, he would acknowledge my work. "Velis will be stepping up as the new CEO." The words hit like a gunshot. I blinked. Surely I had misheard him. "What?" My voice was steady, but my fingers tightened on the napkin in my lap. Magnus exhaled, like he was dealing with a stubborn child. "It makes the most sense. Velis understands the industry. She has presence, connections. You're great with numbers, Elowen, but leading a company takes more than spreadsheets and analytics." Velis chuckled, setting her glass down with infuriating delicacy. "Don't take it personally. Dad just needs someone who can actually command respect." The room blurred. My breath stalled. "You can't be serious," I said, my voice slicing through the polished pretense of civility. "I built the campaign that turned Cade's Prime around. Before that, you were months from shutting down. Magnus raised a hand, silencing me effortlessly. "Let's not get emotional," I swallowed hard. "This isn't emotion. This is reality. You're handing my work, my success, to her?" I gestured toward Vilas, who looked amused. "Vilas has leadership qualities," Magnus said smoothly. "She knows how to network, how to build relationships. You're brilliant, Elowen, but leadership isn't just about results. It's about charisma, influence, and she has it." I laughed, humorless. "She hasn't lifted a damn finger for this company." Velis sighed, inspecting her nails. "That's not fair. Shut up," I snapped. "You did nothing. You sat back while I worked myself into the ground, and now you're reaping the benefits." "Enough!" Magnus's voice was final. The decision is made. A sickening weight settled in my chest. It was never about merit, never about effort. It was about control. Magnus reached into his pocket, pulled out his wallet, and tossed $100 bill onto the table. For your contributions. The insult landed like a slap. $100. For years of dedication, for the nights spent perfecting strategies, for crafting the campaign that saved us. Silence stretched. My mother shifted but said nothing. She never did. I reached for the bill, fingers brushing the crisp paper. Slowly, I folded it into the napkin on my lap. I stood. Magnus sighed. Don't be dramatic. I smiled, cold and controlled. I'm not. I'm excusing myself. Valus chuckled. That's probably for the best. I turned and walked out. No slamming doors, no yelling, no begging. I simply left. Let them think they had won. Let them believe I would disappear quietly. They had no idea what was coming next. The city moved on as if nothing had happened. Yellow cabs weaved through traffic, coffee vendors called out orders, and the scent of fresh bagels and burnt espresso filled the air. But for me, the world had changed overnight. I sat alone in the cafe that used to feel like a second home. This was where my team and I had brainstormed, laughed over ridiculous ideas, and celebrated victories. But today, the energy was different. The chair across from me, where Orson always sat, was empty. The usual banter was gone. I had lost everything. Clutching my coffee, I clung to the hope that this was some mistake. That illusion shattered the moment I glanced at my phone. Valus Cade, the mastermind behind Cade's Prime's turnaround, unveils bold new vision for the future. My breath caught. I clicked the article, scanning words that should have been about me. With a revolutionary marketing strategy, Valus Cade has proven herself a force in the culinary industry. Her innovative approach to digital branding saved the restaurant from collapse. Now, under her leadership, I stopped reading. The coffee cup in my hand trembled. I placed it down before I shattered it. She had taken everything, not just my position, not just my future. She stole my work, the campaign, the sleepless nights, the meticulous planning, and now she was standing in front of cameras, smiling like she had bled for it. The article included a photo of her mid-laugh, radiant in an emerald dress. The caption read, "A visionary in the making." That should have been me. My phone vibrated. A message from Orson. "We need to talk." I grabbed my coat and left. Orson was already seated when I arrived at his office. No grin, no light joke, just tension. He exhaled heavily. "I'm sorry, Elowen." I sat, arms crossed. "Tell me you didn't know." His hesitation was answer enough. "How long?" He ran a hand through his hair. "Magnus called a few weeks ago. Said they were restructuring. Said you'd be moving on." I laughed, hollow. "Moving on? That's what they're calling it?" "You know how this works. Magnus is untouchable. If I pushed back, I would have been out too." "You should have been out." My voice sharpened. "You knew I built this." "I know," he said quietly. "But I have a family, a mortgage. I couldn't risk it." I stared at him. The man who once swore we were in this together was just another person willing to watch them erase me. I stood. "I won't forget this." He looked away. "I didn't think you would." That evening, I met Irindis at a quiet rooftop bar. She hugged me, and for a brief moment, I let myself believe someone was still on my side. "I don't know what to do," I whispered. She sighed. "I wish I could tell you this wasn't happening, but you saw the news." "I saw?" She hesitated. "Elowen, if I take your side, Magnus will blacklist me. I'll never work in marketing again." I already knew the answer. "You're staying!" Tears welled in her eyes. "I'm so sorry." The apology was real, but it didn't change her choice. I nodded. "Take care, Irindis." "Elowen!" But I was already walking away. The neon lights of Times Square flickered. The streets pulsed with life. But I wasn't part of it. I was nowhere. I had built something real, something that mattered. And in one night, they took it all. my father, my sister, my closest friends. I had nothing. But maybe that meant I had nothing left to fear. I stared at the email, my mind refusing to process the words in front of me. Subject, legal notice. Cade's Prime, VC, Elowin, Cade. I clicked on the attachment, my breath shallow as the official document loaded on my screen. Cease and desist. Intellectual property theft. Breach of contract. They were suing me. For my own work. My stomach turned, a slow rolling sickness spreading through me. I had lost my job, my allies, my dignity, but I had thought, at the very least, that I still had my integrity. That no matter how cruel they were, Magnus and Valus wouldn't sink to this. But of course, I had underestimated them. I gripped the edges of my laptop, my knuckles white. The cold glow of the screen cast eerie shadows in my dimly lit apartment. The air was heavy, suffocating, like the walls were closing in. I scrolled through the lawsuit, my vision blurring as I skimmed the accusations. Plaintiff asserts that defendant unlawfully misappropriated proprietary marketing materials and strategic business plans developed by Cade's Prime, thereby engaging in deliberate and malicious intent to exploit company assets for personal gain. It was laughable. They had stolen from me every campaign, every strategy. They wouldn't even have a company to fight over if not for me. And yet, here they were, rewriting history, turning me into the villain. My hands trembled as I reached for my phone. I didn't even think before dialing. Magnus answered on the second ring. "Elowin," he greeted, his voice as smooth as ever. "I assume you got the notice." I clenched my jaw. "You son of a bitch!" A low sigh. "Watch your mouth." "Watch my—" I let out a short, hollow laugh. "You're suing me for my own work, Magnus. Do you even hear yourself?" "It's not personal," he said evenly. "It's business. You know how this works." I squeezed my eyes shut, pressing my fingers to my temple. No, this is personal. You stole from me. You humiliated me. And now you want to destroy me?" "Destroy you?" He chuckled, as if I were being ridiculous. "You're overreacting." "Don't gaslight me, Magnus." My voice was shaking now, but not from fear, from rage. "You took everything, and now you're trying to make sure I can never rebuild. You always did let your emotions get the best of you," he mused. "This is why you were never leadership material, Elowin. A real leader doesn't break under pressure." I sucked in a sharp breath. There it was, the final confirmation that this man, my father, had never believed in me, had never seen me as worthy. "I should have seen it sooner," I whispered. "This was never about me not being capable. It was about control. You needed to be the one pulling the strings, and when I proved I could stand on my own, you cut me down." There was a pause. Then, with an air of detachment, he said, "I did what was best for the company." "Best for the company," I repeated, the words like acid in my mouth. "You mean best for you, because God forbid I prove I could succeed without you." "Are you done?" he asked, his patience wearing thin. I exhaled slowly, a dangerous calm settling over me. "Yeah," I said, "I'm done." A beat of silence. Then, the faintest amusement in his tone. "I doubt that." And then, he hung up. I stared at my phone, my chest rising and falling with shaky breaths. I had spent my whole life fighting for a place in this family, trying to earn their respect, trying to prove that I belonged. But they had never wanted me to succeed. They wanted me to submit. A slow, chilling realization settled over me. I had been playing their game, trying to fight for what was already mine, trying to reclaim something that had never truly belonged to me in the first place. But I wasn't going to do that anymore. They had taken everything from me, which meant I had nothing left to lose. I stood, my hands steady now, my mind sharp with a newfound clarity. If they wanted war, I'd give them one. The first thing I noticed when I woke up wasn't the sunlight or the city noise. It was the silence. No notifications, no investor calls, no meeting confirmations. Then I saw it. A headline, bold and merciless. The bitter heiress, Alain Cade's desperate attempt to tear down Cade's prime. My stomach twisted as I scrolled. Once a promising figure in the culinary world, Alain Cade has taken a shocking turn, suing her own family in what insiders call a petty revenge scheme. Sources claim that after failing to secure a leadership role, she lashed out, trying to dismantle the company that gave her a career. An old press photo accompanied it. Me, mid-blink, looking exhausted, almost unhinged. The quotes that followed painted me as arrogant, selfish, unstable. She was never a team player. Elowen always thought she was smarter than everyone else. She walked away when things didn't go her way. Now she wants to take the company down with her. Dread thickened in my chest as I clicked article after article. It wasn't just one. They were everywhere. Every major business outlet, every industry blog, even food influencers had picked it up. My inbox was flooded with rejection emails. Investors reconsidering their position. I had been blacklisted. By noon, I learned who was behind it. Lucius Grant, Cade's Prime's head of PR. I imagined him at his desk, sipping his overpriced espresso while orchestrating my downfall. He was good. Because the best lies weren't fabrications. They were twisted truths. Had I left in anger? Yes. Had I lashed out? Absolutely. Had I refused to stay silent? Without a doubt. But none of that made me the villain they wanted me to be. I paced my apartment, my mind screaming at me to fight. But the reality settled in like cement. No one was coming to my defense. Orson was silent. Arindis had made her choice. The people I had worked beside for years weren't risking their careers for me. I was alone. I dialed Magnus. I shouldn't have. I knew it was a mistake before he even answered. Alain, he greeted smoothly. I was wondering when I'd hear from you. You did this. He chuckled. Did what? The articles, the interviews. You turned me into your villain. A pause. Then amusement lacing his voice. You did that all on your own. My grip tightened on the phone. This is warfare, Magnus. Business, he corrected. Nothing personal. I laughed, sharp and humorless. Like suing your own daughter was just business? Like letting Valus steal my work was business? Careful, Elowen, he warned, voice smooth. You're getting emotional. Again. Again. Like I was a child throwing a tantrum. I inhaled sharply, my voice dropping to a deadly calm. You think destroying me will stop me from fighting back, but Magnus, I smiled. You always underestimate me. A pause, then a lazy chuckle. Do I? I didn't answer. Instead, I whispered, if you don't stop, I'll burn it all down. Empty threats don't suit you, sweetheart. This isn't a threat. My fingers curled around my phone. It's a promise. He exhaled, almost bored. You always overestimate yourself. And then the line went dead. I stood there, gripping my phone long after he was gone, my pulse thudding in my ears. For years, I had believed that if I worked hard enough, he would see my worth. But Magnus never saw me. Only what I could be used for. I glanced at the open articles on my screen, my own face staring back, with words twisted into something unrecognizable. They thought they could destroy me with lies. I'd show them the truth, and it would ruin them. They thought they had me cornered. They thought their lies would bury me. But they forgot. I built Cade's Prime, and I knew exactly where the skeletons were buried. The city pulsed outside my window, but in my apartment, time stood still. Papers littered the floor, my laptop bathed in a cold blue glow, illuminating financial reports, archived contracts, proof of their betrayal. Then, just as exhaustion threatened to win, I found it. A contract, one that should have never seen the light of day. Confidential agreement. My pulse spiked. 2 months before they pushed me out, Magnus had already planned the transition. Before he called me not leadership material. Before Valise smiled across the dinner table, already knowing my fate. They had paid a PR firm to rewrite history, to erase my name and fabricate a narrative where she was the mastermind behind Cade's Prime's revival. It wasn't just betrayal, it was fraud. I dialed Orson. He picked up on the third ring. "Ilawan, I told you, I can't." "I have proof," I cut in. "Documents, transactions. I can take them down." Silence. Then a sigh. "You sure?" I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tighter. "Yes." Another pause. "If this goes public, they won't just back down," he warned. "They'll fight. Hard." "I'm counting on it. Meet me at the usual spot in an hour." The cafe was nearly empty, dimly lit. I spotted Orson immediately. Same tired eyes, same nervous energy. But next to him sat someone I hadn't seen in years. Soren Draven, once Cade's Prime's head chef, discarded when they needed a modern, marketable face. If anyone understood being erased, it was him. I sat down. "I assume you both want to see them burn." Orson looked away. Soren grinned. "Damn right." "Good." I turned my laptop toward them. "This contract proves Magnus and Valus paid to rewrite history. If we leak this, they'll have to answer for it." Orson shook his head. "You don't just leak something like this. You strategize. Magnus controls the media. If we do this, we have to be airtight." Soren leaned forward. "What else do you have?" I hesitated, then opened another file. A financial report, buried deep. A falsified cost-cutting strategy under Valus's name. A fabricated success story. Soren let out a whistle. "Well, damn," I nodded. "If this gets out, investors will pull out. Lawsuits will pile up." Orson rubbed his face. "You're playing with fire, Ilawan." I met his gaze. "Number, I'm setting the fire." Silence stretched. Then Orson nodded. Soren chuckled. "Let's burn the bastards down." I closed the laptop, my pulse steady, my mind razor sharp. It was time to strike. Orson ran a hand through his hair. "We need to be careful. If we move too fast, Magnus will twist the narrative before we even get a chance to expose him." I nodded. But something wasn't sitting right. I had spent years studying Magnus, watching how he played the game. He didn't just react, he planned. He always knew his opponent's next move before they made it. And yet, here I was, sitting on the very evidence that could tear his empire apart, and I had the gut-wrenching feeling that he already knew. Soren leaned forward. "What's wrong?" I stood abruptly, crossing the room, my mind racing. "Think about it. We just found the one document that can obliterate Cade's Prime, but we've been gathering intel for weeks. Why did it come together so easily now?" Orson frowned. "You think someone set you up?" I turned to Erindis. "You still have access to our team's shared drive, right?" She nodded, pulling out her phone. I watched as her fingers flew over the screen. A few moments later, her face paled. "Shit." I stepped closer. "What?" She turned the phone toward me. A recently accessed file. The exact same report I had pulled up just minutes ago. Except, it wasn't accessed from my laptop. Someone else had been in it. I clenched my jaw. "Who the hell?" And then the notification popped up. "Jasper Lowe. Accessed 3 minutes ago." Soren cursed under his breath. Orson exhaled sharply, shaking his head. "We have a leak." A traitor. Inside my own team. Everything clicked into place. Magnus wasn't reacting. He was waiting. Because someone had been feeding him our every move. I turned back to the group, my voice sharp. "Find Jasper, now!" We found him an hour later. Jasper was exactly where I expected him to be, at a cheap bar downtown, drowning himself in whiskey. He didn't even look surprised when he saw me. "You figured it out faster than I thought," he muttered, swirling his drink. I sat down across from him, folding my arms. "Why?" Jasper let out a short, humorless laugh. "Why do you think? Magnus pays better. And unlike you, he doesn't fight battles he can't win." Orson and Soren flanked me, silent but seething. I kept my expression blank. "So that's what this was? You took my plans and handed them to him, like a good little Jasper's lip curled." You don't get it, Elowen. They'll always win. You were never meant to lead. A slow, cold smile spread across my lips. Funny. That's exactly what they said before I burned their empire to the ground. His jaw twitched. I stood, sliding a piece of paper across the table. He glanced down, confused. Then his face fell. It was his termination letter. Effective immediately. Signed, notarized, and circulated to every high-end restaurant and marketing firm in the industry. You work for Magnus now, right? I leaned down, my voice soft but lethal. Let's see if he cares enough to save your career. I turned and walked out, my heels clicking against the tile. Behind me, Jasper shouted something, but I wasn't listening anymore. If they thought I'd crumble over one traitor, they underestimated me. Now? It was personal. They had stolen from me, lied about me, planted a spy in my own ranks. But now? It was my turn to strike, and I wouldn't stop until the whole world saw them for what they really were. The Culinary Excellence Awards were the pinnacle of the industry, a night where the biggest names in fine dining gathered, where deals were made, reputations cemented, and careers launched. It was also the perfect place to burn Cade's prime to the ground. The ballroom at the Ritz was a masterpiece of opulence, gold chandeliers casting soft light over sleek tables, the scent of aged wine, and delicately plated hors d'oeuvres hanging in the air. Men in sharp tuxedos, women in designer gowns. And at the center of it all, standing smugly at the podium, was Magnus Cade, my father. The industry's visionary, the man who had built a kingdom on my back and then discarded me like I was nothing. The applause as he took the stage was thunderous. Cameras flashed. Investors leaned forward in their seats, eager to bask in the glow of Cade's Prime's continued success. Magnus smiled, slow, composed, confident. It is an honor to be recognized tonight, he began, his voice smooth, practiced. When I started this journey, I envisioned something greater than just a restaurant. I envisioned a legacy. I stood. The room went silent. Eyes turned. Murmurs spread like wildfire. I walked toward the stage, heels clicking against the polished floor, every step measured. I saw Valis sitting at a VIP table, her fingers tightening around the stem of her champagne glass. Next to her, Lucius Grant, their PR hitman, had gone rigid. Magnus, to his credit, barely flinched. He merely tilted his head, amusement flickering in his eyes. Well, well, he mused, his voice carrying across the room. Elowen, here to congratulate your family? A cruel jab, designed to frame me as the jealous, bitter daughter? I smiled, sweet, slow. Then I reached into my clutch, pulled out a stack of papers, and held them up for everyone to see. I'm here to tell the truth. Magnus's smile tightened. Now isn't the time for personal grievances. You're right, I cut in, turning toward the crowd. This isn't about personal grievances. It's about fraud. Gasps rippled through the audience. Journalists perked up. Phones were already being raised, recording. I stepped forward, voice unwavering. My father, Magnus Cade, would have you believe that Cade's Prime is a symbol of excellence, that his leadership is the reason for its success. I held up the documents. But what if I told you this entire brand was built on lies? A journalist stood. What are you saying, Miss Cade? I turned slightly, making sure Magnus saw the ice in my expression. I'm saying my father didn't revitalize Cade's Prime. I did. I developed the marketing strategies that saved this company. And when I was done, they stole my work, erased my contributions, and rewrote history to make Valis the genius behind it all. Magnus let out a low chuckle, shaking his head. Elowen, I know you're upset, but making baseless accusations. Baseless? I barked out a sharp laugh. Then I threw the documents onto the podium in front of him. The pages fanned out. Copies of emails, financial reports, the confidential PR contract that detailed exactly how they manufactured Violus's success. This is what baseless looks like? I shot back. The crowd exploded. Jesus Christ, are these real? Wait, she's saying they faked the entire thing? Someone get a camera on that contract. A journalist snatched up the papers, skimming through them furiously. His eyes widened. Holy! This states that Cade's Prime paid to rewrite history. Magnus slammed his hand against the podium, his composure cracking. That's enough! But it was too late. The audience wasn't looking at him anymore. They were looking at me. Velis surged to her feet. This is slander! She shrieked. None of this proves anything. Soren Draven, standing near the back, let out a sharp laugh. You really want to go there, sweetheart? All eyes turned to him as he held up his own set of documents. Because I've got a whole file on your fake cost-cutting strategies, too. Velis paled. Lucius Grant, their PR mastermind, was already walking toward the exit. He knew the game was up. And Magnus? For the first time in his life, he looked afraid. Investors were whispering among themselves. Journalists were snapping photos, recording every second of this disaster. His empire was crumbling, and he knew it. I took a slow step toward him, lowering my voice so only he could hear. You should have left me alone, Dad, I said, my voice like ice. But you made the mistake of erasing me. I leaned in just enough to see the sweat beating at his temple. Now, I'm erasing you. The walls around them were crumbling, and I wasn't done yet. Magnus had spent a lifetime building his empire, and I had spent years believing I needed to be part of it. But as I stood there, watching the cracks widen, I knew. I wasn't here to reclaim anything. I was here to bury it. The morning after the gala, Cade's Prime's headquarters was a war zone. Phones rang off the hook. Executives whispered in frantic huddles. The once immaculate conference room was now littered with printouts of news articles, emails, financial statements, evidence that Magnus's empire wasn't just shaking, it was collapsing. The fraud was undeniable now. The media had torn through the documents I had exposed, dissecting every fabricated number, every manufactured headline. Investors were bailing fast. None of them wanted their names attached to a company now synonymous with corporate deception. And at the center of it all, in his pristine glass office, stood Magnus Cade, watching his world burn. I stepped inside without knocking. He turned. His eyes, for the first time, weren't sharp with condescension or smug control. They were tired. I shut the door behind me, my heels clicking against the cold marble floor. How's the damage control going? He exhaled through his nose, slow, measured. You always did have a flair for spectacle, Elowen. Funny, that's what people are saying about you right now, I shot back. Lying to the entire industry? Bold move, Magnus. Shame it backfired. He moved toward his desk, picking up a folder, flipping through it as if he still had some semblance of control. This will pass, he said flatly. A few well-placed press releases, some strategic restructuring. It's over, Dad. I cut him off before he could finish the lie. I walked forward, placing a single page in front of him. He froze. His eyes scanned the words, the final death sentence for Cade's Prime. A notice from Augustine Rell, the company's largest investor, officially pulling funding. Rell's name carried weight in the industry. The moment he walked, others would follow. Magnus's hands tightened around the paper. This can be reversed, he muttered, though even he didn't sound convinced. I can talk to him. No, Magnus, I said, stepping closer. You can't. He slowly lifted his gaze to meet mine. For the first time in my life, I saw uncertainty in his eyes. I leaned in slightly, my voice soft but razor-sharp. This company was never as strong as you thought. It wasn't built on leadership, it was built on control. And now, without it, you have nothing. A long silence stretched between us. Then his voice dropped. Help me fix this. I blinked. For a moment, I thought I had misheard him. Excuse me? I asked, tilting my head. His jaw clenched, but the words were already out there. You said it yourself. You're the one who built this company's success. You can still... A sharp, harsh laugh escaped my lips. You want my help? I took a step back, shaking my head. After everything you did? After stealing from me, humiliating me, suing me? His mouth opened, then shut. He was still searching for an angle, still trying to manipulate, still clinging to some last, desperate hope that I wanted this enough to save him. And that's when I knew. He hadn't learned a thing. I leaned in, just close enough for my voice to drop to an icy whisper. "You were never meant to lead, Magnus." His breath hitched. I smiled. "And now?" "You never will again." I turned, heading for the door. Behind me, I heard papers hit the desk, the sound of his frustration, his denial, but he didn't call my name, because even he knew there was nothing left to say. As I stepped out of Cade's prime for the last time, I felt no sadness, no regret, only freedom. And for the first time, my future was truly mine. For so long, I had defined myself by what they took from me. Now, for the first time, I stood on my own, not as Magnus Cade's daughter, not as Cade's prime's former savior, but as something entirely new. The past few weeks had been a blur of rebuilding, reimagining, and finally, reclaiming my future. The storm of Cade's prime's downfall had settled, leaving behind a fractured empire and a family that had once ruled without question. And yet, as I stood at the threshold of my new beginning, I knew the past wasn't quite done with me yet. The sign above the entrance read, "Cade and Company." Not Cade's prime, not Cade family dining, just me. The grand opening of my restaurant wasn't meant to be an event. It wasn't about spectacle or proving anything to anyone. But as I looked around the dining room, filled with familiar faces, Orson, Arindis, Soren, and the loyal staff who had walked away from Magnus, I felt something close to peace for the first time in years. Gone was the suffocating weight of expectations. Gone was the need to be worthy of my father's name. Because I wasn't his anymore. I was mine. I should have known they would come. The soft chime of the restaurant door opening made me turn. And when I saw them, standing just beyond the threshold, my heart didn't race. My breath didn't catch. I felt nothing. Magnus and Velis. Once their presence would have shaken me. I would have scrambled for control, braced myself for another battle. But now, they were just two people from my past, strangers in familiar skin. Velis was the first to speak, her voice sharper than usual, like she was clinging to whatever shreds of power she had left. "So this is what you've been doing?" She gestured around the restaurant, her smile thin. "This little place?" I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Magnus stepped forward, slower, his movements more measured. He looked older, though it had only been a few weeks since the last time I saw him. The collapse of his empire had taken its toll, but the man who had once commanded every room he entered now seemed small. "You proved your point," he said, his voice quieter than I had ever heard it. "You won, Elowen." I tilted my head. Did I? His jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. Instead, he exhaled, glancing around at the restaurant. "You built something," he admitted, and for a moment, there was something almost genuine in his expression. "I underestimated you." A lifetime ago, those words would have meant everything to me. But now, standing here, I realized they didn't matter at all. I smiled. Not out of victory, not out of spite, just because I finally understood the truth. "I didn't do this to prove you wrong, Magnus," I said. "I did this to prove myself right." Silence stretched between us. I saw it then, the first flicker of true defeat in his eyes. Not because I had destroyed his company, not because I had exposed his empire for what it really was, but because I didn't need him anymore. And that, more than anything else, was a loss he could never recover from. Velis scoffed, crossing her arms. "Are we supposed to congratulate you?" I turned toward her, my expression neutral. "You can do whatever you want, Velis." "It doesn't matter to me." Her mouth pressed into a thin line. She hated that she no longer had the power to get under my skin. Magnus ran a hand through his graying hair, his shoulders lowering just slightly. "Is there anything left to say here?" I studied him for a long moment, then shook my head. No, I don't think there is. He gave a small nod, acknowledgement, or maybe acceptance. Then, without another word, he turned and walked toward the door. Vilas hesitated, her fingers twitching at her side like she wanted to say something else. But in the end, she followed him out. And just like that, they were gone. As I stood there, watching the door slowly close behind them, I waited for the flood of emotions, the relief, the sadness, the closure. But what I felt was simple: freedom. For years, I had wanted their approval. Now I didn't need it. And that was the greatest victory of all. I turned back toward my restaurant, my life. I had spent years chasing something that had never been mine to begin with. Now I was done chasing. I was ready to build something entirely my own. For years, I believed that hard work, loyalty, and dedication would always be enough. That if I proved myself, if I gave everything, my family would recognize my worth. But I was wrong. Life doesn't always reward the most deserving. Sometimes the ones who take shortcuts, manipulate, or inherit power win by default. Not because they earned it, but because they were handed it. But here's the truth. You don't need their approval. You don't need their validation. You are more than what they think of you. If this story has taught me anything, it's that when people try to erase you, dismiss you, silence you, let that be your motivation. Not to seek revenge, not to prove them wrong, but to prove yourself right. I didn't fight to reclaim what was stolen. I fought to build something better. And in the end, that's the real victory. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been overlooked, underestimated, or cast aside by the very people who should have supported you? How did you handle it? Did you fight back? Did you walk away? Share your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your story. And if this video resonated with you, drop a 1 in the comments or tell me where you're watching from. If you didn't like it, tell me why. I value all perspectives. Most importantly, don't forget to subscribe. If you love stories that challenge, inspire, and push you to think differently, hit that button and turn on notifications. Because trust me, there's more to come. Your story isn't over yet. Hey there! My name is Kira, and when I was 16, my parents left me at an airport as a lesson. No warning, no money, just a text message that read, "Let's see how long it takes you to get home." That was the day I realized I wasn't their child. I was their experiment. A game piece in their twisted version of parenting, where love was measured in control and cruelty was disguised as teaching me a lesson. But here's the thing about lessons. Some of them you never forget. For years, I thought they had lost me that day, that maybe after all this time, they regretted it, that maybe in some twisted way, they actually missed me. But when they found me 20 years later, I learned the truth. They never looked for me, never wanted me back. They used my disappearance for sympathy, for money, for power. And now, after decades of silence, they're knocking on my door, demanding something I swore I'd never give them again. So tell me, what would you do if the people who abandoned you once came back, expecting you to save them? Would you let them back in? Or would you finally walk away? Because this time, I'm not the lost girl at the airport. This time, I get to decide how the story ends. The past never truly disappears. It lingers, stretching like a long, dark shadow over the life you've built. You tell yourself you've moved on, that it no longer has a hold on you. But then, a message appears on your screen, and suddenly, you're 16 again, standing in an airport with a dead phone and the sinking realization that no one is coming back for you. 39 missed calls. At first, I ignored it. I was in a meeting, discussing logistics for a multi-million-dollar project in downtown Houston. My life was structured, controlled, built brick by brick with my own 2 hands. There was no space for chaos, no room for the past, but the screen kept lighting up, buzzing like a wasp trapped in a jar. Unknown number. "Kira, please pick up. They found you." I had no choice but to give them your number. "I'm sorry, Vesper." My breath caught, my hands pressed against the cool conference table to steady myself. "They found me." I didn't need her to say who they were. Marlo and Orrin Monroe, the people who used to be my parents. 16 years ago, Houston International Airport, that July day was suffocatingly hot. We had just returned from a family trip to Florida. Not that it felt like one. I had spent most of it tiptoeing around my parents' unpredictable moods. One moment, everything was fine. The next, I was walking out of the restroom, wiping my hands on my jeans, only to find the seats where they had been waiting empty. At first, I wasn't worried. Maybe they had moved closer to the gate. I walked, checked, walked some more. Then my phone buzzed. Mom. Let's see how long it takes you to get home. A lesson in independence. Don't call us. My hands went numb. My heart pounded so hard, I thought it might crack my ribs. I tried calling anyway, straight to voicemail, over and over again. I waited. An hour? 2. Security started eyeing me. A woman approached, asking if I was lost. No, I said, my voice hollow. Just waiting for someone. But no one came. By nightfall, I was that kid, sitting on a bench, trying not to cry. I had $40 in my wallet. My bank account was frozen. I had nothing. Security eventually told me I couldn't stay overnight. That's when it hit me. They weren't coming back. They had left me there, on purpose. And I was completely, utterly alone. Present day, I snapped back, gripping my phone like it might dissolve in my hands. I was not that girl anymore. I had fought for everything I had. And now they thought they could just find me? After 20 years? A new message popped up. Vesper. Mom's crying. Dad's furious. They need to talk to you, not want, not miss you, need. Of course, they did. Orrin Monroe never did anything unless it benefited him. Marlo cried on command if it got her sympathy. The only reason they were reaching out now was because they wanted something. And Vesper, I had always believed she might be different. That maybe, just maybe, she had the potential to be something more. But now, giving them my number? She had chosen her side. I stood abruptly, my chair scraping against the polished floor. The room, full of developers, contractors, my project manager, fell silent. Everything okay, Kira? I forced a tight smile. Just an old ghost trying to knock on my door. Before anyone could question me, I walked out. I had spent 20 years pretending those people didn't exist. I wasn't about to let them change that now. I blocked the number. Then, without hesitation, I turned off my phone. But somehow, I knew. This wasn't over. Some ghosts refused to stay buried. I thought blocking the number would be enough. That ignoring them, pretending they didn't exist, would keep them out of my life. But people like Orrin and Marlo Monroe never let go when there's something left to take. And apparently, neither did Vesper. A knock at my door pulled me from my thoughts. It was late. Too late for a neighbor. Too late for a package. My body tensed as I walked toward the door, my bare feet silent on the cool hardwood floor. Downtown Houston's city lights flickered against the windows, casting long shadows across my apartment. I hesitated before looking through the peephole. Vesper. Of course. She looked thinner, her long brown hair pulled into a messy bun. Her arms were wrapped tightly around herself, shifting from foot to foot. She looked desperate. I considered pretending I wasn't home. But I knew Vesper. If she had come all the way here, she wouldn't leave without saying whatever she came to say. I exhaled through my nose and opened the door. Relief flashed across her face. Kira. No. My fingers tightened around the edge of the door. Her mouth snapped shut. Please, she whispered. Just hear me out. I should have slammed the door. Instead, against all common sense, I stepped aside. The second she was inside, I regretted it. She glanced around my apartment, minimalist, clean, controlled, and let out a hollow laugh. You really did it, huh? I folded my arms. What do you want, Vesper? She hesitated, searching for the right words, the ones that would make me care. They're in trouble, she finally said. I scoffed. They're always in trouble. No, Kira, this is different. It's bad. I raised an eyebrow. Enlighten me. She licked her lips, hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. You're stalling, I said flatly. She exhaled. Dad took out loans, a lot of them. But they weren't real, Kira. He faked assets, moved money through shell companies. It's fraud. They're being investigated. I leaned against the counter, unimpressed. Sounds like a them problem. They could go to prison, she said, voice breaking. Sounds about right. Her shoulders sagged. They need help. I laughed, sharp, cold. They need me? I shook my head. Unbelievable. They're desperate, she whispered. I rolled my eyes. They don't get to be desperate now, not with me. Vesper took a step closer. Kira, no. My voice was steel. You don't get to show up here and expect me to save them. They're still our parents. Something snapped inside me. No, I said, dangerously quiet. They stopped being our parents the moment they left me standing in that terminal. Tears filled her eyes. You don't understand? I stepped forward, inches from her face. Oh, I understand perfectly. They abandoned me, let me believe I wasn't good enough to love. And now, when they finally remember I exist, it's because they need something. She shook her head. It's not like that. It's exactly like that, I snapped. Her breath hitched. I tried to protect you. I laughed, bitter. By letting me think they were just bad parents instead of criminals? I thought if you never knew, you wouldn't get involved. I shook my head, disgusted. And yet, here you are, dragging me back in. She opened her mouth, but I was done. I walked to the door and pulled it open. Get out. Kira, I mean it. She hesitated, searching my face for something, anything, that would make me change my mind. But there was nothing left for her to find. She exhaled, nodded once, and stepped past me into the hallway. Paused. They're still family, Kira. I met her gaze, voice cold. Not anymore. I shut the door, locked it. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty about it. I pressed my hands to the counter, steadying myself. Vesper was gone. They were gone. I had cut the cord. But then my phone buzzed. Another message. Unknown number. Ignoring us won't change the past. We're coming. A chill ran down my spine. They weren't done. Not even close. Some wounds never truly heal. They linger beneath the surface, festering, waiting for the right moment to be torn open again. As I stared at the unknown number flashing on my phone screen, I felt the first crack in the foundation of the life I had built. I shouldn't have answered. I should have ignored it, tossed my phone aside, and moved on. But I didn't. I slid my finger across the screen. Silence. Then a voice I hadn't heard in 20 years. Ignoring us won't change the past, Kira. My stomach clenched. I would recognize that voice anywhere. Orrin Monroe. I hung up without a word, my hands trembling around the phone. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. I wasn't 16 anymore. I wasn't stranded in an airport, waiting for them to change their minds and come back for me. I was a grown woman, successful, independent. They had no power over me. At least, that's what I told myself. I paced my apartment, trying to shake the feeling that something rotten had slithered its way back into my life. I needed a distraction. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and started sorting through emails. Work updates, contracts, the usual noise. Then something caught my eye. Subject, account closure confirmation. My chest tightened. It was from an old bank I hadn't used in years. I clicked the email, a formal notice confirming that a trust account in my name had been closed. 20 years ago. That didn't make sense. My parents had set up that account when I was a child, for college, for my future. But after they abandoned me, I never thought about it again. I opened the attached statement. My breath caught. The account had been emptied before I even turned 18. 20 minutes later, I was on the phone with the bank. Most of the representatives were useless, hiding behind outdated policies. But then, finally, someone slipped. Your parents were the account holders until its closure. My grip on the phone tightened. They took my money. Before they abandoned me, before they left me in that airport, they had already stripped me of everything. I swallowed back the lump in my throat. This wasn't just neglect. This was deliberate. And I wasn't done looking for answers. There was only one person who might have left something for me: Annika Monroe. She was the only adult in my family who had ever looked at me like I mattered. Before she passed, she had mentioned setting up a separate fund for me, a safety net in case I ever needed it. I searched for the lawyer who had handled her estate, found a number, dialed it. Jameson and Associates, how can I help you? I'm looking for information on a fund left by Annika Monroe. I kept my voice steady. I believe it was created before her passing. A brief hold, then a new voice. Yes, I remember the case, the lawyer said. Then a pause. But I'm afraid that account was drained before the will was finalized. My stomach dropped. Drained? Yes. Before the estate could be distributed, the funds were already withdrawn. I felt cold all over. Who had access to it? Another pause. Then the answer. Only two people, Orrin Monroe and Vesper. I ended the call and sat back, my heart pounding. Vesper. The same sister who had stood in my apartment hours ago, looking at me with wide, guilt-ridden eyes. She had known. She had known what they did. And she had participated. I had spent years believing that maybe, just maybe, Vesper had been different. That she had been a victim too, caught in their web of manipulation. But now I wasn't sure if she had ever been on my side at all. The past wasn't just full of betrayals. It was full of buried secrets. And this time, I wouldn't let them stay hidden. Sitting in the sterile conference room of Jameson and Associates, I drummed my fingers against the polished table. The air conditioning hummed softly, a stark contrast to the storm inside my chest. Across from me, David Calloway, a gray-haired lawyer, shifted uncomfortably. He hadn't expected me here. Neither had I. But after uncovering the truth about my stolen trust fund and Annika's missing money, I needed answers. Ms. Monroe? Calloway said, his hands clasped. You're looking for old legal records concerning your father? I nodded. Anything sealed, buried. I want to know everything. His expression tightened. Some records are protected, even from family. I leaned forward. I don't care how protected they are. If they exist, I want them. Calloway hesitated. I can't. Don't lie to me, I cut in coldly. I know my mother paid good money to make things disappear. I just want to know why. His throat bobbed. Then he slid a folder toward me. I scanned the page. Defendant, Orrin Monroe, charged domestic assault, sealed record. Date, April 2nd, 1998. Case status, expunged upon testimony from Marlo Monroe. My stomach dropped. I clenched my jaw and read further. Second, arrest. July 14th, 2001. Victim, Vesper Monroe Vesper. The same sister who had stood in my apartment, asking me to help him. Your mother paid to have both records sealed, Calloway said. She claimed the first was a misunderstanding, the second, an accident. I forced myself to breathe. And the charges? Expunged, he said, as if they never happened. A sharp, bitter laugh escaped me. I had believed my mother was trapped with Orrin, that she was a victim too. I was wrong. She wasn't weak. She was his shield. I left the law office on autopilot, my legs carrying me through the city. Before I could think, I pulled out my phone and dialed. Vesper picked up on the third ring. Kira? Her voice was hesitant. You knew, I said, calm and deadly. A pause. Knew what? Don't play stupid. You knew he hurt you. You knew he hurt others. And you let Mom cover it up. Silence. Tell me I'm wrong, I challenged. She didn't. I was scared, she whispered. Scared? My voice rose. You let me believe Mom was one of us, that she was another victim. She wasn't Vesper. She was his damn accomplice. She sucked in a breath. I thought, You thought ignoring it would make it go away? I cut her off. That pretending would stop him? A shaky breath. I didn't want to break the family apart. The family was already broken, I spat. You just helped them keep up appearances. More silence. When I was 16, alone in that airport. What were you doing? Crying in your room? Or sitting at the dinner table with them, pretending I never existed? A sob broke through the line. I felt nothing. You're just like her, I said coldly. You let it happen. I'm sorry, she whispered. I exhaled, shaking my head. No, you're not. Then I ended the call. I drove home in silence, my grip white-knuckled on the wheel. This was never just about money. Oren wasn't just a narcissist. He was a violent monster. And Marlo? She made sure his sins were wiped clean. And Vesper? She was too much of a coward to stop them. I pulled into my apartment garage and turned off the engine, staring blankly ahead. There was no fixing this, no closure. There was only one thing left to do: expose them. They spent their lives burying the truth. Now I was going to dig it up. I thought I had uncovered the worst of it, that there was nothing left to take from me. But the past had one final betrayal to unveil, one that could have changed everything. Late in the evening, my phone rang, breaking the heavy silence of my apartment. The fading sunlight painted long shadows across the walls. I didn't recognize the number, but something in my gut told me to answer. Ms. Monroe? A deep, unfamiliar voice. Yes? This is Richard Connors. I was Annika Monroe's attorney, my breath caught. Annika. The only person in my family who had ever loved me. I'm sorry for calling you out of the blue, he continued. But I found something in my files. A letter Annika wrote for you before she passed. It was meant to be delivered, but someone claimed it on your behalf. My pulse pounded. Who? A pause. Your sister, Vesper. I drove to the law office like a woman possessed. For 20 years, I had believed Annika had died without leaving me anything, that she hadn't been able to help me, and for 20 years, Vesper had let me believe that lie. The receptionist handed me a yellowed envelope. My fingers traced the delicate script, Annika's handwriting. Back in my car, I sat frozen, staring at my name. Then, with shaking hands, I opened the letter. Kira, if you're reading this, I hope you've escaped them, but if you haven't, you need to know the truth. Your parents will never change. Your mother will always choose your father. And your father, he will always find new ways to hurt those around him. I fought for you. I tried to secure a future for you beyond them, but I don't know if it was enough. They will come for you again. When they do not trust them. Do not trust Vesper. My breath hitched. I kept reading. She loves you, but she's afraid. And because of that, she will always choose them. She will protect their secrets, even if it means betraying you. If you have to run, run. If you have to fight, fight. But whatever you do, don't let them pull you back in. You are not theirs to control. You never were. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. The rage was too consuming. Annika had known. She had tried to warn me, and Vesper had stolen that warning from me. I dialed her number. She answered on the second ring. Kira? Her voice was hesitant. No greetings, no pleasantries. Just the only question that mattered. How long have you known? A pause. Too long. About what? She whispered. Don't, I snapped. Did you know about the letter? A shaky exhale. Kira, Answer the question. Silence. Then, finally, I thought if you never saw it, you wouldn't leave for good. My vision blurred with fury. You had no right, I seethed. I was trying to keep our family together, she pleaded. There was no family, Vesper, I hissed. You let me believe I had no one. You let me think Annika abandoned me. And for what? To keep a lie alive? I thought you'd come back, she whispered, voice breaking. I never would have. My voice was steel. Not if I had known the truth. And you let them take everything from me. I didn't know what else to do, she sobbed. Once I would have cared. Once I would have comforted her. But not anymore. There is no family left, I said coldly. And then I hung up. Alone in my apartment, I stared at the letter. For years, I had run from my past. Now I was turning back, to burn it down. This time, I wasn't leaving any survivors. There were lines I never thought I'd have to draw. But when my parents set their sights on Elliot, all bets were off. The call came while I was at work, deep in a security meeting. "Ms. Monroe," the receptionist's voice crackled through the intercom. "The principal from Elliot's school is on the line. She says it's urgent." Dread curled in my stomach as I grabbed the phone. "Ms. Monroe," Mrs. Holloway's voice was careful. "Your parents came by today to visit Elliot." My blood turned to ice. "They said they were here to pick him up," she continued. "Elliot seemed confused, so we didn't release him, but—" I was already grabbing my keys. "What did they say to him?" A hesitation. "They claimed they had permission, that they were helping with a lesson." A cold rage settled in my chest. Let's see how long it takes her to get home. My father's voice echoed in my head. I bolted out the door. I broke every traffic law racing to the school. When I arrived, my parents were there, looming over Elliot, 10 years old, too trusting. Orrin smiled like a teacher, while Marlo crouched beside him, her hand on his shoulder. I barely put my car in park before I was out. "Elliot!" His head snapped up. "Mom!" Marlo stood, feigning concern. "Oh, Kira, we were just catching up." I ignored her, crouching in front of Elliot. "Are you okay?" He nodded, but his confusion lingered. "They said you wouldn't mind." I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. I turned to Orrin. "You do not talk to him. You do not go near him. You do not even breathe in his direction." Orrin chuckled. "Still dramatic, I see." I stepped between them and my son. "This is not up for discussion." Marlo sighed. "Kira, he deserves to know his family." "You," I said, my voice steel, "are not his family." Orrin tilted his head, smirking. "And what are you going to do about it?" I stepped closer. "If you ever come near my son again, I will make you regret it." His smirk faltered. "Careful, sweetheart. You sound just like your mother." My fists clenched. "That's the last mistake you'll ever make," I whispered. I turned to Mrs. Holloway. "Call security. They are never allowed here again." She nodded, already dialing. Orrin's face darkened. Marlo's expression twisted, but she didn't argue. As they walked away, Orrin glanced back. "This isn't over, Kira." I exhaled, turning to Elliot. "Come on, baby, let's go home." He hesitated. "Mom, what did they mean by a lesson?" I swallowed the lump in my throat. "It doesn't matter. They won't be around to teach you anything." He nodded, still confused, but trusting me. As I pulled away from the school, reality settled in. I had spent years running, hoping they'd disappear. I was wrong. They came for my son. And for that, I would destroy them. I thought I knew every dark secret buried in my family's past. I was wrong. I hadn't slept. The last 24 hours had unraveled everything I believed to be true. My parents had crossed a line when they tried to take Elliot. They had proven, beyond a doubt, that they would never stop. For years, I had tried to outrun them, sever the ties binding me to them. But this wasn't just about me anymore. If I wanted them gone for good, I needed leverage. I needed proof. That was how I ended up in a dimly lit office in downtown Houston, sitting across from the private investigator I had hired less than 12 hours ago. Daniel Mercer, sharp, calculated, unreadable. He had taken my case without hesitation, promising results in 48 hours. But now, as he sat across from me, I could tell he had found something big. "You asked me to dig into Orrin and Marlo Monroe," Mercer said, flipping open a file. "Bank records, property deeds, legal disputes. But I found something else." I forced myself to breathe. "What?" Mercer slid a document toward me. A birth certificate, not mine. The name printed on the paper was Annabelle Monroe, born 2 years before me. My stomach dropped. Who the hell is Annabelle? Mercer didn't flinch. He tapped another document, a missing persons report. She was reported missing at 3 years old. The case was closed within a week. I scanned the report, my pulse pounding. And then I saw it. Marlo Monroe. Filed statement. There was never a child named Annabelle Monroe. The world tilted beneath me. I read it again. There was never a child named Annabelle Monroe. But that wasn't possible. Missing persons reports don't just vanish. A 3-year-old doesn't just disappear. Unless someone makes sure of it. My grip tightened on the file. You're telling me my parents erased their own daughter? Mercer's face was unreadable. Legally, Annabelle Monroe never existed. No death certificate. No social security number. After the report was closed, her record stopped. It's like she was wiped from existence. Annabelle Monroe had been my sister, and my parents had erased her. I swallowed hard, my voice barely a whisper. What happened to her? Mercer hesitated. You have a theory, I pushed. He exhaled. Cases like this don't just disappear, Kira. If I had to guess, either she was given away, or something worse happened, and your mother made sure no one asked questions. Marlo. Orrin had always been the obvious monster, the manipulative tyrant who crushed everything in his path. But Marlo? She was worse, because she made the monsters. I thought back to my childhood, to every punishment, every lesson Orrin had taught me. The way Marlo had watched, silent, complicit. Had she done the same to Annabelle? Had my sister been the first experiment, a failed project, a mistake they erased? Nausea twisted my stomach. I need more, I said, voice shaking. I need everything you can find on Annabelle. Who she was, where she went. Mercer hesitated. Kira, if they covered this up, they did it for a reason. Good, I said coldly. That means I finally have something to use against them. Because this wasn't just about me anymore. It never had been. This was about all the lives they had destroyed, and I was going to make sure they never destroyed another. I left the office in a daze. The streets of downtown Houston blurred, the sun high in the sky, mocking the darkness inside me. Annabelle. I had a sister, and they had erased her. My fists clenched. They spent their whole lives making sure no one could escape them. Now it was my turn. They erased one daughter. They would never erase another. They spent their lives controlling others, erasing what they didn't like, manipulating what they couldn't erase. But I wasn't a child anymore, and I was done playing their game. The boardroom was silent. Orrin and Marlo Monroe sat at the polished mahogany table, their expressions carefully composed. Their designer clothes and forced poise screamed power, but it was a farce. They were drowning, and they knew it. They thought I was here to negotiate. They thought I was going to fold, give in, and save them like the obedient daughter they never deserved. I sat across from them, my hands steady, my heart cold. I had spent my entire life running. But today, I was the one setting the trap. Orrin was the first to speak. Let's not waste time, Kira. His voice was firm, controlled. We both know why we're here. You're angry, I get it. But this... He gestured toward the legal team seated beside me. This isn't necessary. We're family. We can settle things privately. I smiled. Cold. Detached. You think this is about anger? I leaned forward. This is about consequences. Marlo shifted uncomfortably, her manicured fingers twisting the edge of her silk scarf. Sweetheart, please don't let outsiders poison our families. I slammed the first file onto the table. They flinched. Stolen trust fund, I said evenly, tapping the pages in front of them. Financial fraud, illegal asset transfers, tax evasion, and that's just the beginning. Marlo's face drained of color. Orrin clenched his jaw, but his mask didn't crack. Not yet. Where did you get this? He asked, voice flat. I had someone very good look into you, I replied. Turns out, erasing paper trails isn't as easy as erasing daughters. Silence. A beat too long. Oren's fingers curled into fists. You don't understand. I dropped the second file. Annabelle. Marlowe's breath hitched. I had their attention now. You always thought you were untouchable, I murmured, flipping the pages, watching their eyes dart from document to document. You stole my money, my future. But what you did to Annabelle? I exhaled, voice sharp as a blade. That's a new kind of evil. Marlowe's hands trembled. We had to. You had to what? I snapped. Erase your own child? Bury her existence? I leaned closer, my voice low, venomous. Tell me, Mother, what happened to Annabelle? Her lips parted. No words came out. Oren's jaw tightened, his silence absolute. Because they knew, and they knew that I knew. For the first time in my life, I watched my father hesitate. The tension in the room thickened, suffocating. Then I placed the final document in front of them. A signed deal. A choice. Here's how this plays out, I said, my tone sharp, professional, ruthless. You either take the deal, cooperate with law enforcement, and quietly disappear into the mess you created, or you fight. I tilted my head. And if you fight, everything goes public. Every crime, every lie, every person you destroyed. I leaned back, crossing my arms. I don't care which option you choose, because either way, I smiled. You lose? Marlowe broke first. She sagged in her chair, her breath coming in uneven gasps. Kira, please, she whispered. I did what I had to do. I was protecting this family. I laughed, short, hollow. You didn't protect anyone, I spat. You enabled him. You covered for him. You erased a child like she was an inconvenience. Her lip quivered. For the first time in my life, I saw her for what she really was. Weak, pathetic, a coward who let the monster win. Oren, though, he wasn't weak. He was furious. His eyes met mine, sharp as razors. You think you're going to destroy me with this? I tilted my head. I know I am. The silence stretched. Then Oren exhaled through his nose, his shoulders relaxing as he leaned back. His expression was unreadable, calculated, and I knew that look. It was the look he always had before he won. You're your mother's daughter, he muttered. So emotional. A sharp pang hit my chest, a reflex, but it was the last time his words would ever touch me, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of him. I smirked. And you're a fraudulent criminal with no way out. I slid the pen across the table. Sign the papers, Dad. His jaw twitched. His pride screamed at him to resist. But he picked up the pen, and he signed. I stood up. Oren and Marlowe stayed seated, their world crumbling around them. They had spent their whole lives winning. But today they lost. I turned toward the door, walking away. And for the first time in my life, I didn't look back. The war was over. But wars leave wreckage in their wake, and some wounds don't heal just because the battle is won. The cafe was quiet, the low hum of conversation blending with the clinking of silverware against porcelain. The kind of place meant for first dates and soft reunions, not for final goodbyes. I had chosen this spot deliberately. Neutral ground. A place where history couldn't sink its claws into me, where the ghosts of my past couldn't twist my emotions into something I didn't want to feel. Across from me, the seat remained empty. For now. I had given Vesper one chance, a single meeting, no second invitations, no open-ended promises. If she wanted to talk, this was it. I stirred my coffee, watching the steam rise. The door opened. I knew it was her before I even looked up. Vesper hesitated just inside the entrance, scanning the room like a nervous child entering a principal's office. When her eyes found mine, something flickered across her face. Guilt, hesitation, regret. Good. She walked over, slow and careful, as if expecting me to vanish before she got the chance to speak. She sat. Neither of us said a word. Finally, she exhaled. I don't expect you to forgive me. I took a sip of coffee. Good. Her hands tightened around the edge of the table. but I still needed to say it. I let the silence stretch, watching her fidget under the weight of it. She had once been my sister. Now she was just someone who shared my blood. I wanted to believe they weren't as bad as you said, she admitted, voice cracking. I wanted to believe we could still be a family. I let out a quiet laugh, sharp, bitter. There was never a family, Vesper. You just didn't want to see it. She flinched, but she didn't argue. I leaned back in my chair, tapping my fingers against the ceramic mug. What do you want from me? She swallowed, looking down. I don't know. Then why are you here? She hesitated. Then, in a whisper, because I don't want to lose you, too. I stared at her, searching for something, anything, that would make me believe her, but I couldn't. Because love without trust was just an open wound waiting to be torn apart again. And I was done bleeding. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and placed it between us. She frowned. What's this? The truth, I said. Read it. Her fingers shook as she unfolded it. Annabelle's birth certificate, the missing persons report, the statement Marlowe had filed to erase her from existence. Vesper's lips parted, eyes scanning the words. I watched as her world shattered. Oh my God! Her hands trembled. I didn't. Kira, I didn't know. I tilted my head. Didn't you? Tears welled in her eyes. I swear to you, if I had known. I held up a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. I don't care. She blinked. What? I exhaled, slow and deliberate. I don't care what you knew or didn't know. I don't care what you regret. You made your choice, Vesper, and I made mine. She stared at me, lips parted, waiting for something, mercy, understanding, absolution. I had none left to give. I stood, pulling a few bills from my wallet and dropping them onto the table. I have a life to live, I said, my voice steady, and it doesn't include them. I met her eyes, cold and unwavering. I don't know if it includes you either. Her breath hitched, but she nodded. She didn't argue, because she knew. She had already lost me. The sun was lower in the sky when I stepped outside, the warmth of the day fading into evening. A small figure waited by the car, his hands shoved into his jacket pockets. Elliot. His brown eyes lifted when he saw me, a soft, knowing smile tugging at his lips. All done? I nodded. He climbed into the passenger seat, buckling himself in as I slid behind the wheel. The cafe, the past, the weight of old wounds, they all sat behind me. I gripped the steering wheel, inhaling deeply. For the first time in years, I could finally breathe. Life teaches us lessons in the harshest ways, but sometimes those lessons aren't about survival. They're about choosing to live on your own terms. For years, I believed healing meant making peace with the past, that understanding my parents' choices would free me from the weight I carried. But some people will never give you closure. They won't admit their mistakes, feel remorse, or change. Waiting for an apology that will never come only keeps you chained to the ones who hurt you. Healing isn't about them, it's about you. You don't need their permission to move forward. You don't have to carry their sins. You are allowed to walk away, even if they call you heartless, ungrateful, or try to pull you back with guilt. Your peace is worth more than their approval. If this video touched your heart, drop a 1 in the comments or tell me where you're watching from. And if you want more stories like this, make sure to subscribe so you never miss one. My name is Sloan, and this is the story of the night my family finally made it clear. I didn't belong. I showed up to my sister's wedding expecting to celebrate, to smile for the cameras, to do what I always did, play the role of the good daughter. But from the moment I stepped inside, something felt off. And then I saw it, my seat. Not at the family table, not even in the main hall, but shoved outside, near the coat racks. At first, I thought it was a mistake, but it wasn't. It was a message that said, You don't matter. But here's the thing about pushing someone aside for too long. Eventually, they stopped trying to fit in, so I made a choice that night. And what happened after? Well, let's just say, it shocked everyone. I pulled into the parking lot of the venue, my fingers gripping the steering wheel a little too tightly. A five-star ballroom in the heart of Chicago, decked out with twinkling chandeliers, marble floors, and floral arrangements worth more than my rent. Everything about this wedding screamed luxury, everything except for my presence. With a deep breath, I stepped out of my car, smoothing down my navy blue dress. I wasn't here to cause a scene. I wasn't here to make this about me. It was Odessa's day, and I had accepted a long time ago that I wasn't the favorite sibling. I just hadn't expected them to remind me of it in such a public, humiliating way. Inside, a wedding planner with an overly bright smile greeted me at the check-in table. "Name?" she chirped. "Sloane." My voice came out calm, controlled. "Sloane Hathaway." Her smile faltered just a little. My stomach tightened as she flipped through the seating chart. Then, something flashed across her face. Pity. I knew that look. I hated that look. "Oh, right, here you are," she said, handing me a small place card. You're seated over here." She hesitated, then pointed toward a hallway just outside the grand ballroom. I frowned. "Excuse me?" She forced another smile. "Your table is just outside the main reception area." My eyes darted to the massive seating chart displayed on the stand beside her. Vivian and Harold Hathaway, my parents, were seated at the front, next to the bride and groom. Odessa's closest friends, Dominic's distant relatives, even his co-worker's girlfriend, all had seats inside. My name wasn't there. I turned back to the planner. "There must be a mistake." Her smile tightened. "I'm afraid that's your assigned seat." A slow burn started in my chest. Not even at a distant table inside the ballroom. No, they had shoved me into the hallway as if I were an afterthought. Like a guest, they had to accommodate out of obligation, not family. Still, I held on to some ridiculous hope that this was just an oversight. That maybe, just maybe, my own mother hadn't allowed this to happen. I spotted her across the room, standing with Odessa, beaming as she fussed over her dress. My sister looked radiant, perfect, adored, just as she had always been. Odessa caught my gaze, tilted her head, then smirked. That smirk told me everything I needed to know. I forced myself forward. "Mom," I said, keeping my voice light. "Can I talk to you for a second?" Vivian barely spared me a glance. "Oh, darling, now's not the time. Can't you see we're busy?" "It'll only take a second," I said through gritted teeth. She sighed, annoyed but obliging, and stepped aside. Odessa didn't move, of course. She just watched, her smirk growing. "I just checked my seat," I said. "It's in the hallway." Vivian let out a dismissive hum. "Well, we had to prioritize immediate family members at the main tables, Sloane." I blinked. "Immediate family?" "I am immediate family." Vivian let out a forced, airy laugh, as if I'd said something absurd. "Oh, sweetheart, don't be so dramatic." Odessa finally spoke. "Did they mess up your seat?" "Wow, that's unfortunate." Her voice dripped with false sympathy. "You know how chaotic wedding planning can be. So many little details, things get overlooked." Her eyes glowed with amusement. She knew. This wasn't an accident. I turned back to my mother. "Mom, you really think it's okay for me to be seated outside the reception hall, away from everyone?" Vivian sighed again, clearly bored of the conversation. "Sloane, don't make a big deal out of this. It's Odessa's special day. Just be grateful you're here." Grateful. The word lodged itself in my throat, bitter and unspoken. Be grateful for being treated like a second-class guest at my own sister's wedding. Be grateful for being discarded, shoved aside, forgotten. I opened my mouth, but Harold, my father, my ever-passive, avoidant father, finally spoke. "It's just seating, sweetheart," he said, not even looking at me. Let's not ruin the mood. That was it. That was all he had to say. I didn't even bother responding. What was the point? A new voice broke the silence. That's an interesting arrangement. I turned and found Celeste, Dominic's mother, standing nearby, champagne in hand. Her eyes flickered toward Odessa, then back to me, her expression unreadable. Odessa stiffened slightly. Vivian gave her a rehearsed, gracious smile. Oh, Celeste, you know how tricky wedding planning can be. We tried our best to accommodate everyone. Celeste hummed, unconvinced. She looked at me just a second too long, as if reading between the lines. I didn't know what that meant yet, but I held her gaze. Odessa looped her arm through my mother's, effortlessly steering the conversation away. Mom, we should really check on the cake before the reception starts. And just like that, I was dismissed. The ballroom around me was alive with laughter, clinking glasses, and music. A celebration I wasn't truly a part of. I was here, but not welcome. I walked away, my pulse hammering. Not toward my assigned table, not toward the hallway. I reached for the place card in my hand, staring at my own name printed in elegant cursive. I turned it over once, then again, before slowly setting it down on a nearby tray. If they thought I was just going to accept this, they didn't know me at all. I stare at the dimly lit hallway, my back pressed against the cold wall, fingers tightening around the edge of my dress. Laughter, clinking glasses, and distant music spill from the grand ballroom, a world I was never truly a part of. The isolation isn't new. The humiliation, though sharper this time, feels oddly familiar, like an old wound being sliced open again. This wasn't an accident. They wanted me to feel small, insignificant, and damn it, they succeeded. The sting in my chest spreads, not just from this moment, but from years of being the second choice, the afterthought. My mind drifts back, pulling me into the past before I can stop it. 3 years ago, I was back at my parents' house, rummaging through my old bedroom. I hadn't been home in a while, and it showed. Dust gathered in corners, my childhood books untouched, the framed pictures on the wall frozen in time. High school, college, everything before I stopped trying. I wasn't searching for anything in particular, just killing time while my mother finished whatever elaborate dinner she was preparing for Odessa's visit. It was always about Odessa. Then I saw it, a small leather notebook sticking out of my mother's nightstand. I almost didn't open it, but something about the way it was tucked away, as if it were important, as if it mattered, made me reach for it. Inside, pages upon pages of carefully recorded memories, notes, thoughts, about Odessa, her birthdays, her achievements, her struggles, her favorite foods, the names of her childhood friends, even a list of gifts she had loved and ones she had faked liking to be polite. I flipped through more pages, searching for something, anything about me. There was nothing, not a single mention, not a single thought, not a single note about her other daughter. It was like I never existed. I remember standing there, gripping the notebook so tightly my hands ached. A lifetime of doubt suddenly confirmed in ink. When my mother walked in, she barely reacted. "Oh, honey, you've always been independent. I never had to worry about you like I do Odessa." Like that was supposed to be a compliment. Like that was supposed to erase the years of quiet neglect. She had written down everything about Odessa, yet not one single thought about me was worth recording. That was the moment I knew. I had always been alone in this family. The present crashes back around me, the sound of Odessa's laughter slicing through the air like a blade. The weight of that damn notebook presses against my chest, even now. I glance at my assigned table, the insult of it, the pettiness, the cruelty. If they wanted to remind me of my place, message received. I inhale sharply, pushing myself off the wall. If my family had already decided I didn't belong, maybe it was time to act like it. I step toward the ballroom, my mind racing. But before I even reach the doorway, I catch sight of Dominic. He's standing off to the side, near the bar, a glass of whiskey in his hand, but he isn't drinking it. His eyes aren't scanning the crowd with the ease of a man who just married the love of his life. Instead, they're locked on something or someone with unmistakable hesitation. And then, they land on me. He exhales, long and slow, before pushing off the counter and walking toward me. Sloane. His voice is even, but there's something underneath it. I raise an eyebrow. Dominic. For a moment, neither of us speaks. The wedding moves on around us. People drinking, laughing, celebrating. A party moving forward while its foundation slowly rots beneath it. Dominic shifts, rolling the whiskey glass in his palm before glancing over his shoulder, toward the far side of the room where Odessa is holding court, basking in her own reflection. When he looks back at me, his jaw tightens. There it is again. That hesitation. That doubt. Sloane, he starts, voice lower this time. I know we haven't talked much, but can I ask you something? I tilt my head. That depends. Is this a polite wedding conversation, or is this something else? He doesn't smile, doesn't even pretend. Something inside me shifts. Dominic sighs, rubbing his temple like he's already regretting this. Does your sister ever talk about me differently when I'm not around? There it is. That single question. That moment where reality peeks through the cracks of whatever illusion Odessa has been feeding him. For a split second, I consider lying. Maybe out of some misplaced sense of protection. Maybe because exposing the truth in a setting like this is a dangerous thing. But then I remember my seat assignment. I remember Odessa's smirk. I remember my mother's dismissal. And I remember who Odessa really is. I glance at his whiskey glass. You should probably take a sip of that first. Dominic tenses. Then he lifts the glass to his lips and downs the whole thing. Dominic, I say carefully, I don't think you know Odessa as well as you think you do. His jaw tightens. I was afraid of that. Silence stretches between us, thick and suffocating. She's been acting different, he finally says, his voice quieter now, edged with something close to frustration. Controlling. There are things she doesn't want me to see. My stomach twists, because of course there are. Before I can respond, Celeste appears. She's walking toward us, her expression unreadable, but her eyes are sharp, calculating. Odessa's new mother-in-law, the only woman in this room with more power than she has. Celeste stops in front of Dominic, her gaze flicking toward me for just a second before settling on him. Darling, she says smoothly, I believe you should see this. Then she holds out her phone. Dominic takes it hesitantly, scrolling down, his face shifting from confusion to realization to something far, far worse. Odessa's text messages, to her friends, to her stylist, to people who have no business knowing what's in her heart, because what's in her heart is cold and rotten. The messages are brutal, petty, cruel. Odessa trashing Celeste, calling her overbearing, controlling, a rich old woman who just needs to write the checks and stay out of her life. Odessa talking about Dominic, how she's training him to be the husband she needs, how he'll do whatever she wants because he's so desperate to prove he's better than his dad. And then, the worst one, Odessa laughing about how easy this marriage will be. Because Dominic's family has money, and all she has to do is play her part until she doesn't have to anymore. Dominic's hand clenches around the phone. Celeste watches him carefully. Your wife-to-be doesn't just dislike me, Dominic. She pauses, voice calm but sharp as glass. She's been planning to control you since day one. Dominic sways slightly, as if the floor beneath him has just cracked open. I say nothing, because this isn't my moment. This is his. I just watch as his expression shifts from doubt to anger. The wedding may be happening, but the foundation beneath it is already cracking. The wedding may still be in motion, but behind closed doors, the family meeting that follows will change everything. I follow the movement of bodies as we're ushered into a private lounge. The air is heavy, thick with the kind of tension that makes your skin itch. Odessa is in the center of it all, perfectly composed, or at least pretending to be. Celeste stands near the entrance, arms crossed, lips pressed together in an unreadable line. Dominic lingers by the bar, his whiskey untouched, his shoulders rigid. Vivienne, of course, is already speaking, already smoothing, already making excuses. "This is all just a misunderstanding," she says, offering a thin, forced smile. "Emotions are high. It's a wedding after all. Let's not let a little family tension—" Celeste cuts her off. "Family tension?" she echoes, eyes narrowing. "Vivian, this isn't tension. This is a revelation." Odessa lets out a mocking scoff, arms crossing over her designer gown. "You've seriously dragged us in here for this?" She turns toward Dominic, voice dripping in sugar. "Baby, tell me you don't actually believe this nonsense." Dominic doesn't answer. He doesn't even look at her. Vivian reaches for his arm, her voice softer now. "Dominic, sweetheart, you have to understand. Odessa has been under a lot of stress. Planning a wedding is exhausting. People say things they don't mean." Celeste's lips curl. Funny, because she seemed to mean every word when she talked about controlling him. Odessa's jaw tightens, but before she can fire back, Harold speaks, and the entire room stills. "Vivian, stop." The words are quiet, but they land like a gunshot. My mother turns, blinking, as if surprised to be interrupted. My father is not a man who raises his voice, not a man who intervenes. But tonight, something shifts. "You've protected Odessa her entire life," he says, his voice tired, weighted with something I can't place. "And look what it's turned her into." Odessa gasps, genuine shock flashing across her face. "Dad? You're taking her side?" Harold ignores her, turning to me instead. "Sloane has been right all along." The words ring in my ears. My breath catches. My mother physically recoils. For the first time in my life, my father is choosing me. Vivian shakes her head, laughing nervously, as if this is some kind of mistake. "Harold, don't be ridiculous. Odessa is a liar." Dominic speaks before he even realizes it. His voice is raw, like he's just now waking up to the fact that he's been sleeping next to a stranger. Odessa pales. "Excuse me?" I take a slow step forward, locking eyes with my mother. I need her to understand this moment. I need her to feel the weight of it. "If you keep covering for her," I say quietly, "you will lose more than just me, Mom." For the first time, Vivian falters. Odessa sees it, and she panics. Her voice sharpens, desperation creeping in. "You're all turning against me because of her?" Celeste lets out a slow breath, taking a sip of her drink before delivering the final blow. "We're turning against you because we finally see you for what you are." Odessa physically flinches, her breath shuddering, eyes darting from face to face. She has always been in control, until now. A wounded animal is the most dangerous kind, and Odessa has no intention of going down quietly. The air in the private lounge is suffocating, charged with something electric, something sharp. No one moves, no one speaks, as if any sudden motion might detonate the tension coiling in the room. Odessa stands rigid, her breath shallow, her fingers clutching the fabric of her gown so tightly that the seams strain. She's losing control, and she knows it. Vivian's grip on her daughter's arm is firm, her voice low but desperate. "Odessa, stop!" But Odessa doesn't stop. She can't. She won't. Across the room, Dominic hasn't said a word. His silence is heavier than any accusation, a weight pressing down on Odessa's carefully built world. I glance at him, the man who just pledged forever to my sister, and I see the doubt in his eyes. More than doubt, something colder, disgust. A flicker of satisfaction sparks in my chest, but I bury it. This isn't over, not yet. Odessa exhales sharply, then turns to me, eyes narrowed. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" Her voice is quiet, controlled, but there's a tremor beneath it. I meet her gaze. "I don't have to think, Odessa. I know. Her lips curl, but it's not a smile. It's something darker, more brittle. You've always been jealous of me. The accusation is so absurd, so predictable, that I almost laugh. Almost. Instead, I tilt my head. Jealous? Of what? The fact that you have to manipulate and lie just to make people stay in your orbit? I gesture to Dominic, to Celeste, to our own parents. Look around, Odessa. Your world is shrinking. Her jaw clenches. And then I go for the kill. You played your game well, I say, voice measured even. But you forgot one thing. I know who you really are. Odessa flinches. It's subtle, but it's there. Vivian sucks in a sharp breath. She knows I'm not bluffing. I step forward, my voice soft but unwavering. I know about the money, the texts, the things you've said about your own husband. I glance at Dominic. The things you've said about his family. Dominic stiffens. Odessa's face drains of color. And then, for the first time in her life, my mother pleads with me. Vivian turns, eyes wide, hands shaking. Sloane, she whispers. She's still your sister. You don't have to do this. A beat of silence. And for a split second, a fraction of a moment, I hesitate. Not because I feel sorry for Odessa, but because my mother has never looked at me like this before. Like she needs me, like she's afraid. But the hesitation is fleeting. Because I know if the roles were reversed, Odessa wouldn't hesitate. And she proves it when she snaps. You're all turning against me because of her? Odessa's voice cracks, sharp and raw, her hands trembling at her sides. She's always been bitter, always hated me, and now you're going to believe her over your own daughter? Celeste exhales slowly, lifting her glass to her lips before delivering the final blow. We're turning against you because we finally see you for what you are. The words hit like a slap. Odessa's mouth opens, then closes. She looks at Dominic, her last chance at control. Her voice shakes as she reaches for him. You don't believe them, do you? Dominic doesn't answer. That silence? It's her death sentence. Odessa's breathing hitches, her panic tangible now. And then, she lunges forward, her expression twisted with fury. But this time, I'm not backing down. Odessa's hand swings toward me, fast and reckless, but I barely flinch. I don't have to move. I don't have to cower. Because the difference between us is clear now. I'm not afraid anymore. Odessa is the one losing control, and everyone in this room knows it. Her palm cuts through the air, a flash of anger, of desperation. But before it connects, Celeste steps between us. Odessa collides with her instead, stumbling back, gasping. The sheer force of her own reckless movement sends her off balance, right into the entrance of the ballroom. And now there's no hiding. The music halts, conversations die. Every guest in the reception turns toward the spectacle unfolding at the entrance. Odessa. The perfect bride, the golden child, the one who always controlled the narrative, stands there, disheveled, breathless, her rage twisting her features into something unrecognizable. She blinks, realizing too late that this isn't a private fight anymore. It's a public disaster. A murmur spreads through the ballroom. Guests whisper. Eyes widen. Some exchange glances, others stare outright. Dominic is still standing near the bar, silent, watching. Just watching. Odessa spins toward him, frantic. You're my husband! Her voice shakes, high and thin. You have to stand by me! Dominic exhales slowly. The exhaustion on his face is unmistakable. I don't think I ever really knew you. The words land like a final nail in her coffin. Odessa staggers, her breath hitching, shaking her head violently. No, you don't mean that. You love me. But Dominic's eyes are empty now. Not angry, not even disappointed. Just done. Then, without another word, he reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out a small envelope. My breath catches. I already know what it is. Odessa does too. Her face drains of color. What? What is that? Dominic doesn't blink. Annulment papers. A collective gasp rips through the guests. Even I feel the weight of it, the finality, the death of the perfect image she spent years curating. Odessa's hands tremble as she stares at the envelope. You had this prepared? Celeste steps forward, arms crossed, voice cold. Of course he did. Odessa's lips part, but no words come out. And then Celeste delivers the final blow. You were never going to be a part of this family. Odessa staggers back, her world unraveling. But she isn't done yet. Odessa may have lost her marriage, but she still has one weapon left. Revenge. Her chest rises and falls in quick, uneven breaths, her perfectly curled hair slightly out of place, her hands trembling at her sides. But this isn't over. Not for her. She refuses to let it be. She turns sharply to our mother. Mom! She pleads, her voice softer now, laced with just the right amount of vulnerability. You know this isn't true. You know they're trying to ruin me. Vivian hesitates. Of course she does. She has spent a lifetime cleaning up Odessa's messes, smoothing over her mistakes, making excuses. My mother's lips part, her eyes darting between her two daughters, the one she's always protected and the one she's always dismissed. Odessa! She starts, voice uncertain. Odessa seizes the moment. She grips Vivian's hand, pressing it against her chest like some kind of dramatic performance. Mom, you know me. You know I love Dominic. I would never. Stop. The voice is cold. Final. Dominic. He's holding something in his hand, a stack of papers stapled at the top. His face is unreadable, but his grip is tight. Odessa freezes. Celeste steps forward, her expression razor-sharp. Go on, Dominic, she says smoothly. Read it. Dominic's jaw clenches. Then, in a voice eerily calm, he begins. Odessa Hathaway filed an inquiry with a divorce attorney 1 month before the wedding. A sharp, collective gasp rips through the guests still lingering in the ballroom. I feel my stomach drop, not out of shock, but because even I didn't expect it to be this bad. Dominic doesn't stop. You were planning to leave me, he says, each word slow, deliberate, cutting. The second you got access to my money. The paper in his hands trembles slightly, but his voice doesn't waver. Odessa pales. That's not. Celeste lets out a low, unimpressed laugh. Oh, sweetheart, don't even try. She tilts her head. That's a legal document. You know, the kind that doesn't lie. Odessa's confidence shatters. The room is spinning out of her control, slipping through her fingers like sand. Dominic takes a step closer. Was anything ever real, Odessa? His voice is raw, not angry, just exhausted. Did you ever love me? Or was I just another accessory for you to show off? Odessa's lips quiver. Her eyes dart around the room, searching for someone, anyone, to back her up. And then, as if on pure survival instinct, she spins toward me. This is all your fault, she snaps, her voice rising, cracking. You've always been jealous of me. There it is. The same tired accusation. But this time, it doesn't land. Because for the first time, I don't care. I don't rise to the bait. I don't argue. I don't give her what she wants. I simply look at her and say, No, Odessa. This isn't my fault. She flinches. This is who you've always been. Her breath hitches. I step forward. I don't raise my voice. I don't have to. You manipulate. You lie. You take and take and take, and when things go wrong, you blame everyone but yourself. Vivian gasps softly, as if hearing the truth for the first time. Odessa shakes her head violently. No, that's not. Mom, tell her she's wrong. But Vivian doesn't move. She just stares. And for Odessa, that silence is worse than any insult. She stumbles back, realization dawning. She is lost. Odessa looks around the room, seeking someone to take her side. But for the first time in her life, no one does. As the weight of her actions settles in, Odessa realizes there is only one thing left to do: disappear. But first, she fights. Her breath is uneven, her face pale beneath the ballroom lights. She looks around the room, scanning for someone. Anyone. to stand by her side. For the first time in her life, no one does. The guests stare in stunned silence. Some whisper behind raised hands. Some avoid eye contact altogether. Even Vivian, her greatest defender, her most loyal enabler, says nothing. Odessa stumbles back, her manicured nails digging into her palms. Then, slowly, she laughs. It's bitter, hollow. Not the laugh of a woman who's won, but of someone who refuses to believe she's lost. You all think you're better than me? She sneers, her voice unsteady. Just wait, none of you will be anything without me. No one reacts. No one rushes to tell her she's wrong. She grits her teeth, shaking her head, as if trying to will the moment into something else. And then, our eyes meet. I step forward. Not out of pity, not out of cruelty, but because I need her to hear this. For the first time, Odessa looks small. You spent your whole life making sure I felt invisible, I say, my voice steady, unwavering. But look around, Odessa. I watch as her throat bobs, as her breath hitches. You're the one no one sees anymore. She blinks, and for a split second, something in her cracks. Then, just as quickly, she shoves it down. She steps back, shaking her head, laughing again. But there's nothing behind it. No. You don't get to do this, she spits. You don't get to be the hero in this story. I exhale slowly. She still doesn't understand. This isn't a story, Odessa. This is just the truth. Her mouth opens, but nothing comes out. She turns to our mother. Vivian's arms are wrapped around herself, her lips slightly parted, her expression shattered. Tears shine in her eyes. Not for Odessa, not for me. For what she allowed to happen, for what she let Odessa become. She stares at me, really looks at me, for the first time in years. And I know she sees it now, the damage, the choices, the consequences. But it's too late. I won't stay to watch the aftermath. I take a breath, shoulders back, and turn toward the exit. No dramatic speech, no second glance, just a quiet, final decision. I walk out, stepping through the heavy ballroom doors into the crisp night air. The cold fills my lungs, sharp and cleansing. And as I stand there, staring at the city lights stretching out beyond the courtyard, I feel it. A new beginning waits beyond the doors. The past may still linger, but I've finally learned that not all endings need closure. It's been a week since the wedding, a week since I walked out and left them all standing there, staring, speechless, unsure what to do without me playing my role. The fallout came fast. I glance at my phone, scrolling through the missed calls and unread messages. Most of them from my mother. Some apologetic, some defensive. Vivian Hathaway doesn't know how to lose. She doesn't know how to navigate a world where I'm not desperately seeking her approval. Odessa, meanwhile? Silent. No social media posts, no cryptic captions, no carefully curated illusions of perfection. She disappeared from public view the way a fallen queen disappears from history. And the family group chat? Still active, still buzzing with updates, jokes, inside references. Just without me. I should feel hurt. I should feel the sting of exclusion. But I don't. For the first time, I don't need to be part of something that never truly included me to begin with. The call comes later that evening. I let it ring twice before answering. Vivian's voice is hesitant. I know I've made mistakes, she says, as if it's that simple. I say nothing. She exhales shakily. I don't know how to fix this. I close my eyes, leaning back against my couch. There's nothing to fix. Some wounds don't heal, some shouldn't. But I don't say that. I don't say anything. She waits, like she's hoping I'll hand her a script, tell her how to make this all go away. But I won't. And eventually, she realizes it. I just wanted you to know, she murmurs, before the line goes dead. Later that night, I get another message. Not a voicemail this time, not a plea. An invitation, dinner. A quiet, unspoken truce. For the first time, I consider saying no. Not out of anger, not out of resentment, but because I don't need their validation anymore. I stare at the message, at the weight of it, and I realize something. This isn't about them choosing me anymore. It's about me choosing myself. I walk through my apartment, stopping by the small bookshelf near the window. Old photographs sit there, framed moments of a life I once wanted so badly to belong to. I pick one up, a Christmas photo from years ago. Odessa front and center, radiant as always. Vivian beside her, hand on her shoulder. And me? On the edge of the frame, like an afterthought. I set it down, and I don't pick it up again. Instead, I step toward the window, breathing in the stillness of the night. The city stretches out before me, endless, full of possibilities. And for the first time, I feel it. Freedom. Before we end this story, let me leave you with something important. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Family isn't about blood, it's about respect. About knowing your worth. About refusing to beg for a seat at a table that was never meant for you. For too long, I believed I had to earn love. That if I worked hard enough, stayed quiet enough, sacrificed enough, eventually they'd see me. They'd choose me. But the truth? Sometimes the best thing you can do, the strongest thing you can do, is walk away. Not every story needs closure. Not every wound heals with an apology. And that's okay. Because the real healing, the real power, that comes when you choose yourself. So let me ask you, have you ever had to walk away from something or someone to protect your own peace? Have you ever realized that staying would cost you more than leaving ever could? Drop a 1 in the comments if this story resonated with you. Or tell me, where are you watching from? I love hearing your stories, your experiences. And if you want more stories like this, real, raw, and filled with lessons we all need, hit that subscribe button. Because trust me, there's more to come. Thank you for watching, and remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival.